Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel. Journey of the Superman Adventures. Chapter 21. Washington, Trident Building. This building is the SHIELD headquarters on the bright side. Although there are always people on duty or doing business inside, Nick Fury, as the director, will not work here unless there are special circumstances. Just like today, Nick Fury sat in his office very angrily, losing his temper constantly, because SHIELD had failed in the mutant exposure incident. Although there will definitely be interference from their old friend Hydra, they shouldn't lose so completely. Nick Fury stared at the agent in front of him seriously, and said, "Have you not found the reason yet? Then find it for me quickly. Don't make excuses for me, we are a Secret Service organization, not a police department." The agent kept wiping his sweat, and said intermittently, "Yes, Director," but, before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted. "No but. You must find them for me, there must be enemies between us, find them for me." Nick Fury's tone was unquestionable, the agent had no choice but to accept the order, and then was kicked out by Nick Fury. Ring ring ring. The phone is ringing. "Boss, just now Congress has officially passed the Mutant Registration Act, and is going to make their list mandatory." Nick Fury suddenly became angry, and shouted, "Don't these fools know that there are super dangerous existences among mutants? If they are really forced to disclose their identities, it will eventually lead to a war between mutants and humans. Hurry up and send someone over to delay this matter as much as possible. I don't want to listen to any excuses, I just want the result, I will go now." After finishing speaking, he hung up the phone with a clap. Nick Fury was really about to burst into anger, and roared, "These people are really interesting. Do you really think that if you have a large number of people, you can enslave all the mutants? Doesn't anyone read the information we sent them? Moths." Knock, knock, the door was knocked. Nick Fury took a few deep breaths to calm himself down, and then said lightly, "Come in." The door was opened, and Agent Hill walked in wearing a black uniform with a blank expression on his face. Nick Fury's expression softened slightly, and he asked, "Agent Hill, what's going on? What did Professor X say?" Agent Hill reported lightly, saying, "I talked to Professor X and the others, and I also searched with the brainwave enhancement machine, but I couldn't find Xia Ying's true identity. So I asked my agents to create an accident, intending to attract Xia Ying, but Xia Ying did not appear. It is very likely that he still has abilities that we do not know. The good news is that Professor X and the others are going to send people to contact Xia Ying, but they have one condition." After hearing this, Nick Fury said, "What conditions?" Agent Hill said, "They want us to help them, let Professor X's student, Phoenix Girl, go to Congress to conduct a scientific research seminar on mutants, so that Congress can abolish the Mutant Registration Act." Nick Fury was puzzled, and asked, "I just found out about this news, how did Professor X know about it?" Agent Hill said indifferently, "Professor X said that he heard it by accident when he was using the brainwave enhancement machine, and then sent me here with their fighter plane." Nick Fury gritted his teeth and said, "They are demonstrating." Agent Hill said indifferently, "They have this strength. And their actions are relatively gentle." Nick Fury said lightly, "Understood, go to the scientific research department to investigate the brain and see if there are any traces of modification. Now we can't trust anyone." Agent Hill frowned, then said in relief, "Yes, sir." After speaking, he turned and left the office. Nick Fury touched his bald head a little irritably, then picked up the phone, and said, "Connect me to the White House." Equals 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 equals. On the other side, Rufus Avenue, Queens, New York. A fashion jewelry store, a robbery is taking place. Several gangster-looking young people, led by a young man with messy hair dyed and wearing a beggar's outfit, well, it's just a rather strange outfit, are happily distributing the gold and silver jewelry in the display cabinet, and diamond jewelry into a school bag, and they have one thing in common, that is the bloodthirsty bat tattooed on their arms. It seems to be a gang member. Suddenly a young man came in and said, "Boss Jack, the police are here, hee, it's up to you." The man known as Boss Jack, who was molesting a beautiful waiter in the jewelry store, laughed when he heard what his subordinates said. "Aha, These guys are finally here, let's go, let's see your boss' strength, and then let our Bat Gang dominate Queens. He smiled arrogantly, put one arm around the trembling waiter, and led his subordinates towards the door. At the door of the jewelry store, 3 police cars had already gathered. 8 police officers were staring at the door with their pistols raised, while a figure who looked like their head was holding a horn, shouting words to let the people inside release the hostages and surrender. Dash 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 dash. Jack is an orphan, living in an unknown small town, but his life is not bad. However, since a group of gangsters came there, his life became different. He was bullied by those gangsters every day. Jack, who was naturally timid, did not dare to call the police or tell others, so he could only bear the bullying of the gangsters in silence. Until one day, his pendant was broken by gangsters. It was the only gift given to him by the old man who adopted him, and it was also the only proof that made him feel warm in this world. The credential was destroyed and Jack exploded. Instead of dying in silence, explode in silence. He awakened superpowers. Of course, he later learned that this is called mutant power. Jack used his mutant power to kill those gangsters. But instead of being treated like a hero, he was hated and feared by everyone, and some even called him the devil's advocate. He was confused and scared, and finally angrily killed a guy who insulted the old man who adopted him, and then entered that person's house to rob, and finally came to New York with the money he got from the robbery. After coming to New York, the existence of mutants was exposed, and Jack also knew that he was not sick, nor a monster, but a new race above human beings, mutants. So he gathered some gangsters, relied on his increasingly powerful mutant ability to form the so-called Bat Gang, and then planned today's action. He wanted everyone to know that he was no longer the coward who was bullied casually, but be the true master of Queens, New York. Dash 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 dash. The police guarding in front of the jewelry store immediately raised their vigilance when they saw the few people coming out of the door. After all, the other party still had a hostage in their hands, so they had to be cautious, but they obviously underestimated the enemy this time, and they also obviously, he didn't expect that the world that truly belonged to supernatural abilities would finally come. Jack came out, looked at the sheriff who kept shouting, smiled mockingly, and said, "Listen to me, from today on, I, Bat Jack, will be the boss of Queens, and everyone who refuses to accept it will be like this." After speaking, he opened his mouth and shouted out a kind of fluctuation that humans can hear. I saw an invisible fluctuation in the air instantly hit a police car ahead, and then the police car was thrown into the sky as if hit by a huge force, and finally landed on the road several hundred meters away, almost letting the people who watched the excitement over there were injured. The policemen were stunned, and then they were a little thankful that they all got out of the car just now, otherwise they would definitely fall into a steel burger this time. Fortunately, it was a headache after that, because now the biggest problem came, that is, the person in front of me must be a mutant, but how should ordinary human policemen rely on me to fight against this mutant, or how should I do it myself? Paul. Obviously they didn't know what to do, they could only secretly pray that Xiaoying would come over to help them overcome this difficulty. Looking at the expressions of the policemen, Jack became even more arrogant, and said, "Haha, you have seen my strength, please call for help, I will let everyone know today, Bat Jack is invincible, I will be the real master of this Queens." At this moment, a faint voice interrupted him, "I'm sorry, it's time to wake up from your sweet dreams. Although your daydreams don't ask for money and it's none of my business, but if you confuse your sweet dreams with the real world, it's time for you to wake up." Oh no. This sudden voice, of course, belongs to our superhero Mr. Shadow. He just rushed over from home, and then he heard the rampant remarks of this Mr. Bat Jack, so he reminded him out of kindness. Of course, Adam didn't know if the other party accepted his kindness. Bat Jack was not surprised by the appearance of Xiaoying, obviously he had expected it before, so he said lightly, "Hee, superhero Xiaoying, I have been listening to your reputation, but I think you are just a person who wants to it's just a famous mutant, what's the big deal? I heard that your speed is very fast, let me try to see if my sound wave is as fast as mine." After speaking, he opened his mouth and hit Adam with a sound wave. Adam smiled slightly, then rescued the people behind him with a whoosh at his own speed, looked at the traces on the wall behind him, turned around and said to the policeman, "You deal with those little fools first, they are a bunch of gangsters, without any ability, I will lead this guy away." After Adam finished speaking, without waiting for the police to react, he kicked his feet and teleported to Jack, grabbed Jack's throat with one hand, and grabbed his shoulder with the other hand, then used his super speed to leave Roosevelt Avenue, and then came to an abandoned factory and threw Jack to the ground. At this time, Jack had already fainted, so why did Adam take him away from the crowd and come to this abandoned factory? It turned out that just when Adam came to Rufus Avenue to subdue Jack, he heard Athena say that someone nearby was watching him and Jack. Adam didn't know the opponent's plan, so he took Jack away from the crowd directly, and then prepared to settle the matter here. Adam waited for a while and found that no one had come, so he pulled out a few steel bars from the side, and then nailed Jack's limbs and neck to the ground, preparing to call the police to let them deal with the mutant. At this moment, Athena suddenly said, "Master, a stealth fighter is here. It may be the X-Men, because the only ones with this kind of technology in the data are the X-Men except S.H.I.E.L.D. Because it's about mutants, the X-Men are most likely to come." After hearing this, Adam turned and looked towards the sky, and then saw the special fighter belonging to the X-Men and the 3 people sitting on it through supervision. According to the information collected by Athena, he quickly recognized those people. The lady with wine-red hair and brown eyes, full of mysterious power, should be Chin Gele, who is called Phoenix Girl in the data, and another black woman wearing a black uniform with silver hair is Storm Aurora Monroe. The last man with facial paralysis and special glasses should be Cyclops Scott Summers. In midair, on the X-Fighter, Phoenix Girl frowned and let out a light sigh. Storm asked, "What happened?" Phoenix Girl looked down, and said, "We have been discovered, the other party seems to have the ability to see through, and he is already looking at us." After speaking, she used her ability to envelop the fighter plane with mental power, interrupting Adam's peeping. Storm was a little surprised when she heard this, and said, "This hero is really strong, and his abilities are not of the same type. It seems that he is not a mutant." Phoenix Girl nodded, and said, "It is indeed possible. Scott, what should we do now?" After hearing this, Cyclops said, "Get in touch with the other party directly. If possible, take him to the school for the professor to see, and we can't let that mutant fall into the hands of the police, otherwise another tragedy will occur." In the team, although Cyclops rarely spoke, he was usually the one giving orders, so Storm nodded upon hearing Cyclops' words, then lifted her stealth status, landed the fighter directly on top of the abandoned factory, and the 3 of them walked down. At this time, Adam was thinking about the scene just now. After the Phoenix Girl wrapped the fighter plane with her mind power, his eyesight could not penetrate the Phoenix Girl's mind force layer to see inside. In this way, he discovered another shortcoming of supervision. Supervision can't see through the protective layer formed by pure energy such as thought power. Maybe he should pay attention to this point in the future, so he wants Athena to write this matter into the memo just in case. There is one more thing that my eyesight can't penetrate. While he was thinking wildly, he heard the sound of fighter jets parked on the roof, so he put his mind away and waited for those people to come down. After a while, the 3 Phoenix Girls came down from the top together. A smile appeared on Phoenix Girl's face, and said, "Mr. Shying, hello, we are X-Men from X Academy. If possible, could you please hand over this mutant to us?" The Phoenix Girl is very slim and beautiful. Although Adam has seen it once just now, it still fascinates him, but his concentration is not bad, and there is a mask on his face to block his eyes, so in the eyes of the other party, his silence is just contemplation. Therefore, Storm said, "We want to take away this mutant fellow who committed a crime, not to let him escape legal sanctions, but to prevent him from being brutally studied by some organizations or individuals. We often encounter things like this, so please understand our feelings." Adam smiled slightly after hearing this, and said, "If you want to take him away, it's fine, but why should I hand this guy over to you?" "But," Phoenix Girl asked suspiciously, "but what?" She didn't feel any malice from Adam, so she was still willing to negotiate. Adam smiled and said, "If Ms. Jean Grey can agree to be my girlfriend." Before Adam finished speaking, a laser beam suddenly shot out from Cyclops' eyes and hit the ground in front of Adam. Cyclops said with a cold face, "If you make such absurd request again, don't blame us for being rude." Adam cut it and said, "If that's the case, then let's fight." After Adam finished speaking with a heat ray, he saluted Cyclops, but was blocked by Phoenix Girl using a mind barrier. Of course, this was also because Adam was just joking. Adam's heat rays. Phoenix Girl stopped the two who wanted to make a move, and said, "Mr. Sha-Ying, please stop joking like this. My boyfriend loves me very much, and I love my boyfriend very much." Adam shrugged and said, "Well, since it's your request, I'll agree, but Ms. Chin, why don't you consider changing your boyfriend? This man is too jealous and very childish." Phoenix Girl got a little angry this time, and said, "Mr. Sha-Ying, please respect yourself." Adam was bored, and said, Okay, I won't say anything, for your sake. I was stunned by Jean Grey, helpless. That person will be given to you, and the other party's ability is sonic attack, be careful." After speaking, he moved his feet and disappeared. Adam disappeared, but the faces of the three present were full of shock and anger. Cyclops' eyes were turned upside down, Storm's hair was tangled together, horrified, and Jean Grey's headband was taken away. Coupled with the strangeness from her lips, Phoenix Girl knew that she was being entangled by the other party. Kissed stealthily, shocked, angry, and slightly shy. "Demonstration, Chiguquo's demonstration," Storm said angrily. "This fool." But she was still a little fortunate that the other party and herself were not enemies. Cyclops didn't say a word, but his tightly clenched fist showed that his mood was not very calm. Phoenix Girl sighed lightly, and said, "Let's go back, please tell the professor about this matter." After speaking, she walked towards Jack, who was nailed to the ground first. Storm asked suspiciously, "Chin, are you okay?" Storm shook her head and said, "It's okay. Well, Scott, I need your help here." After hearing this, Cyclops calmed down, then walked to Jack, and asked Phoenix to prolong Jack's drowsiness, then shot off the iron bars, and escorted Jack, Phoenix and others back to the fighter jet. On the way back, the three of them were very silent. They were all shocked by Adam's strength, and each thought about these things, so they returned to X Academy silently. Back at X Academy, Cyclops and Phoenix put Jack in a special prison under X Academy. Some mutants who have committed crimes are locked up here. It is to protect their safety that these mutants who are not the most heinous mutants are locked up, and then they are slowly influenced to let them join the X Academy to study or work. Storm alone reported what happened today to Professor X. After hearing this, Professor X became interested in this superhero, and said, "No wonder S.H.I.E.L.D. came to us. It turned out that they were afraid of his strength. It seems that I have to find time to meet this hero in person." These words happened to be heard by Cyclops and Phoenix Girl, who had already returned. Cyclops objected, "No, Professor, if that guy is against you, the consequences will be dire." Phoenix Girl shook her head, and said, "You don't have to worry about this. I don't feel any malice from him, otherwise we wouldn't be able to come back today." Cyclops was about to object, but Professor X waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, since the other party is determined to be a superhero, then he and us are not enemies, but friends." Professor X's idea failed to come true, because the mutants attacked Rufus Avenue in broad daylight and claimed that they would dominate the actions of Queens, so that more people joined the action of resisting and rejecting mutants. Some members of Congress, led by Congressman Kelly, took this opportunity to propose the Mutant Registration Act, again, intending to gather all mutants, and then study their abilities and ways of living, etc., so Professor X had to put his eyes shifted to this congressman, hoping to solve the problem through discussion. Under the arrangement of S.H.I.E.L.D., Professor X is going to let Phoenix Girl enter Congress to explain the origin of mutants to members of Congress, and hopes that through this discussion, Congress will cancel the Mutant Registration Act. Although Adam was concerned about all this, he didn't pay too much attention to this issue because it had nothing to do with him and he didn't want to intervene in the battle between those in power and the mutants. So what is Adam doing now? Going to make a movie. Brother, what kind of tricks are you playing? Tony was very surprised. He originally wanted to invite Adam to a friend's party, but he didn't expect Adam to say that he was going to make a movie. Adam smiled and said, "Yeah, my new company is ready, so I'm going to Canada to make a movie this time, so you have fun, and take care of your mother and father, don't be naughty anymore. Tony shrugged and said, well, I see. I wanted to introduce you to a beautiful woman. Since you don't have time, let's just forget about it. Let's talk about it next time. Adam also said, well, let's talk about it when I come back, I'm going to get on the plane, goodbye. Then he hung up the phone. That's right, Adam is now preparing to go to Canada to shoot a movie. Dawn Films has already found a director and actors. As the screenwriter and producer of the upcoming Twilight Saga, Adam also has to go to Canada. Of course, the most important thing is the reason is that he was tired of staying in New York and wanted to go out for a walk. As for things in New York City, Athena will notify him in time if something happens. It is very easy for him to rush back at his speed, so he is not afraid of chaos in New York City, and the New York police are not vegetarian, they did a great job before there were superheroes, let alone now. Equals 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 equals. Canada, Alberta, a small town. Adam sat in the villa rented by the crew and watched the director and cameraman discuss issues, while the other actors sat in a corner and looked at the script in their hands. Only Adam looked at the people around him with interest, after all, he had nothing to do now. The director is a middle-aged woman named Alice Cordia, don't be serious, they are all different and she has made many popular movies before. After watching her work, Adam nodded and agreed to her as the director of this movie. Alice is a practical person, so she started her own work after she came to Canada. She communicated with the actors in the morning and discussed with the photographer in the afternoon. She planned to start shooting in the evening. Photographer Locke Hogan joined the crew with the director and was Alice's queen photographer. However, Adam doubted the relationship between Locke and Alice, and it seemed that it was not as simple as they said. As for the heroine, well, she is a very beautiful girl, she acted in many movies when she was a child, she was a child star, but this is her first movie when she grows up. She is sitting there staring at the script very seriously, but her assistant it seemed that he was trying to pimp him, and he was whispering to Christine to seize the opportunity. Of course Adam knew what the opportunity Christine's assistant was talking about, wasn't he himself? Adam Stark can also be regarded as one of the famous playboys in the United States, and he is not only a rich second generation, but also an inventor. He owns some patents and some company stocks. He is the golden turtle that current actresses prefer son-in-law. Listening to what these people said, Adam chuckled, then stood up and prepared to go out for a walk. After he went out, Christine seemed to be annoyed by his assistant, so she stood up and told the director to go out for a while, and then left. Adam saw Christine in a bar again. She seemed to be in a bad mood. She sat in the corner of the bar and asked for a glass of wine in a daze. Adam walked over and sat next to Christine, and said, "Hey, the filming is about to start tonight, is it really okay for you to do this?" Christine was surprised when she heard this, and saw that it was Adam who said awkwardly, "Mr. Stark, I just had a drink in a bad mood, and it won't affect the filming." Adam smiled and said, "Okay, just call me Adam, don't be nervous, I won't tell the director, can you tell me what troubles you have?" Christine was silent for a while, then said perfunctorily, "It's nothing, I'm just thinking about how to play the role of Bella well." She is not familiar with Adam, and Adam is the producer and screenwriter of this movie, so it is impossible for him to tell the truth, especially the origin of this matter is this Adam Stark. Adam looked at her and said with a smile, "Hee, is that so? Then you are such a good actor." This simple sentence turned into a kind of sarcasm in Christine's ears. With a cold face, he said, "I think I should leave, Mr. Stark, goodbye." After speaking, he stood up and was about to leave. At this moment, Adam reminded her, "Actually, you don't need to worry. Rabbits don't eat weeds. I bought the film company to shoot my favorite movies. There is no other purpose. Don't put pressure on yourself. I have asked your agency to change an assistant, you just need to play your role with peace of mind." Christine blushed. Apparently she didn't expect Adam to overhear the conversation between her and the assistant, and said angrily, "You don't need to be kind. I won't be fooled by you." After finishing speaking, she quickly left the bar. Adam was left with a bewildered face. Apparently the other party thought that Adam was trying to help him. Not to mention how depressed it was to be misunderstood by others, Adam left the bar a little depressed. Adam, who didn't want to go back so early, drove around the town aimlessly. After walking for about an hour, he came to a passing driver. Another town where homeless people gather. Adam parked the car on the side of the road, looked at the sign called Homeless Bar in front of him, pushed the door and walked in. This is a small bar, but there are many people inside, some truck drivers and some homeless people. They are talking about the boxing match that will be held in the backyard later. This kind of boxing match is a kind of gambling that homeless people like, and it is also their daily way of seeking joy. After all, they don't have extra money to go to more advanced places, so they seek excitement and joy in such homeless bars. Maybe if you are lucky, you can win a lot of money in gambling. Of course, what Adam is interested in is not the boxing match itself, but a guy named Wolverine. From what they say, he seems to have lived here for a while, and he often participates in boxing matches here. Never lost since. Of course, Adam has been to the boxing match, but it seems that this is the first time he has seen such a bar boxing match, so Adam, who is interested, ordered a glass of beer, and sat quietly in the corner waiting for the boxing match to start. After a while, a tall figure came in from the outside. With messy hair, a beard with personality and handsome appearance, this is a mature uncle who specially attracts little girls. Adam heard someone calling him Wolverine, so he glanced at him with great interest. What surprised and amazed Adam was that this Uncle Wolverine's intuition was extraordinary, and he just glanced at him in the crowd. Has been sensed by the uncle and glanced at him. Adam smiled and drank the beer in his hand, and murmured, "Interesting. It seems that this uncle is not an ordinary person." After speaking, he saw everyone walking towards the backyard, and followed them into the backyard. There is a simple arena in the backyard of the bar, surrounded by barbed wire, so that those who join the battle will not escape halfway. At this time, a fat guy came up with a microphone and introduced the rules of today's boxing match, and then this boxing match began. Adam watched the boxing match indifferently, and seemed a bit special among the emotional crowd. With a bang, Wolverine knocked a challenger to the ground with a punch in the ring, and then took out a cigar from the side and lit it deeply. After taking a breath, he saw Adam standing out from the crowd, making a provocative gesture, as if he wanted Adam to compete with himself in the ring. The action of Wolverine made other people notice Adam's existence, and then booed, "Go up. Hey, if you are not a fool, go up and compete. As the kid scared, if you are afraid of losing, go back and drink milk." Ha ha. Adam didn't look at the booing people, but looked at Wolverine and asked, "You want to compete with me?" Wolverine said briefly, "Go up, fight." Adam found it very interesting, and said, "Well, since you want to compete with me, let's fight." After Adam finished speaking, he took off his shirt, revealing a body of exquisite linear muscles, moved his hands and feet, and walked onto the ring very neatly. Adam took off his shirt and stepped onto the ring, posing to observe the opponent's movements. This skillful movement made the provocative Wolverine slightly taken aback, but he was relieved immediately because he felt that the other party was not simple just now. Logan is a mutant with the ability to freely retractable diamond claws, super healing ability and beast-like perception ability. For some reason, he has no impression of his previous memories at all, only the memories of the last 10 years. Oh, yes, because of the super healing ability, his life has also been extended, and he doesn't know how long he has lived. He has been looking for his own memory, so he does not have a stable job, so every time he goes to a small town, he goes to the bar with the most people to gamble with people, which has become his habit. He has been in this small town for a week, but he has no impression of this small town. He decided to leave this small town in a few days. At this moment, he met Adam in the bar, the person who made him feel dangerous, so he made a provocation in order to test the strength of the other party. Of course, he did not believe that anyone in this world would kill himself so easily, so I made a provocation with confidence. No, the opponent put on a familiar posture as soon as he came on stage. Wolverine put aside the cigar he just lit, looked at Adam seriously, looking for the opponent's flaws. Why has no one recognized Adam until now? That's because Adam put on a little makeup before coming here, and people who don't know him can't recognize him, So Adam stood on the stage for so long, and no one knew that the other party was the famous American playboy Adam Stark. In this way, the two sides have stood on the ring for almost a minute, except for the occasional test. They didn't really make a move, which made the people watching below unhappy. Hey, we're here to watch boxing, let's fight. Little white face, are you afraid? If you are afraid, go back to drink milk, haha. Adam frowned, looked at Wolverine and said, since they want to see it, we don't have to try it anymore, let's have a fight. Wolverine stared closely at Adam's hands and feet, and said, okay, kid, let the horse come over here. Hearing Wolverine's words, Adam was not polite anymore, and directly punched Wolverine. Of course, Adam would not use his full strength, but only used about 3 times the strength of human beings, but he found that he really underestimated Wolverine on the opposite side, because his punch was blocked by the opponent. But that's what's interesting, isn't it? Knowing that Wolverine is very powerful, Adam began to compete with Wolverine at ease, and improved his strength little by little. He did not use super speed or heat rays to bully the opponent, but used slightly stronger strength and agility than the opponent every time. Come and fight each other. Adam and Wolverine fought more and more fiercely. The fists of both sides on the ring had already made the ring dilapidated, but whether it was the audience watching the punches below or the two people fighting above, they no longer cared about the ring. Already immersed in this fist-to-hand combat. The battle lasted about 15 minutes, and Adam and Wolverine had almost unlimited physical strength, so such a long period of fierce fighting did not exhaust their physical strength, and it also made the people below watch a scene that they couldn't even dream of, to fight. With a bang, Adam punched Wolverine back and hit the barbed wire of the ring. He shook his hands and said, hey, buddy, do you want to fight again? After hearing this, Wolverine glanced at the group of people who looked like they had seen a ghost, shook his head and said, forget it, I won't fight, I will lose this game, but let's have a real fight next time we have a chance. Let's have a game. He hasn't used his diamond claw yet, and he also has an intuition that the opponent hasn't used his real strength, so he will invite him to fight again next time. Adam smiled after hearing this, and said, okay, I haven't fought like this for a long time, it's really enjoyable. Let's have a drink together. Wolverine smiled and lit a new cigar, and said, of course. I think you look very rich. Treat yourself. Adam smiled, picked up his shirt and put it on, and said, of course no problem. After speaking, he left the backyard with Wolverine Logan. The two ordered a glass of beer, sat at the bar and began to chat. Adam smiled and said, my name is Adam, what about you? I can't call you Wolverine, can I? Wolverine said, my name is Logan, of course it's okay to call me Wolverine. Adam drank a glass of wine and said, okay, let me call you Logan, it's more polite, isn't it? Wolverine shrugged and said, it's up to you, I'm used to it, come on, cheers. In this way, the two sides were drinking and chatting. Of course, neither of them asked the other party's reason for coming. It was just some lace news and various small jokes. Then Adam saw that it was very late, so he suggested that he should leave. Wolverine is a person who never gets drunk, so he is still very sober. He nodded and said, okay, Adam, be careful on the road. If you want to drink, come here and find me. I will stay here for 3 or 4 days. And Adam was a little drunk, nodded, and said, okay, but if you have time, come find me in New York, I will show you my bar, there are many interesting things there, I should leave. Goodbye. After speaking, he left the bar with some drunkenness. Wolverine smiled after seeing it, and said, what an interesting person, maybe New York is a good place to go, let's go and see it next time. After speaking, he ordered a glass of beer again and drank it alone. It was already very late when Adam left the bar. Adam, who was slightly drunk by the night wind, also woke up. He turned on his phone and read the message. After finding that there was no important information, he drove back to the set in a rickety car, where the villa is located. When Adam came back, he found that today's shooting was over. His assistant was looking out of the door with a worried expression on his face. He smiled and walked over to pat the little assistant on the shoulder, saying, hey, Susan, I'm back. Go back and rest. Suzanne is Adam's assistant in Dawn Film Company, a sweet-looking little girl. She yawned and said, ah, you are back, boss. Your bedroom is arranged on the 2nd floor. I will bring you go there. Adam smiled and said, okay, since you're sleepy, go back to sleep. I'll go back to my bedroom to sleep. Susan was really too sleepy, so she nodded and said, okay, I'll go back to bed first. Boss, you should go to bed early too. After speaking, she left in a daze. Adam couldn't help laughing after seeing it, and then quickly stopped the confused assistant, asked him about his bedroom before letting him leave, and he went up to the second floor to the room the assistant said, and walked in. Adam walked in the door without turning on the light and walked into the bathroom. After taking a comfortable bath, he wrapped himself in a bathrobe and walked out of the bathroom. Then he went to the bed and lay down. He fell asleep quickly because he was a little drunk. The next day, Adam was woken up by his assistant. After having some breakfast, he came to the director's side and started his journey of stealing teachers. Of course, Director Alice didn't have any opinion on this, and she didn't think that Adam could learn to be a director after watching it once, so this is impossible, but in fact, she underestimated Adam's ability. Of course, Adam, who has a super brain, stole the teacher very smoothly. He has learned a lot of director knowledge in 2 or 3 days. Then in the last scene of the third night, he proposed the idea of letting himself try, because the other party was not just a simple producer, so Alice had no way to refuse, so she had to frown slightly and let Adam try. But soon, Alice's brows relaxed, because although Adam seemed a little jerky as a director, he still did a good job, which surprised Alice. After filming, Alice came to Adam with a smile, and said, "Hee hee, Adam, I didn't expect you to live up to your reputation as a genius. You have learned directing skills so quickly, and you will be able to direct a movie by yourself in a short time." "It's a movie." Adam smiled modestly and said, "Hee hee, this is all Alice. You taught me well. Today's filming is over. Let me treat you tonight. Let's go out for a few drinks." After hearing Adam's words, Alice thought for a while, and said, "Okay, you young people, go and have fun. I won't go, so as to save them from embarrassment." Alice's words made everyone in the crew cheer. After all, because of the filming these days, Alice didn't let them drink alcohol and told them not to leave the villa as much as possible, so I heard that today they can go out, especially for a few drinks. At that time, everyone was very happy. After seeing it, Alice hurriedly added for tomorrow's shooting plan, "It's okay to play, but don't be too late, and don't drink too much, or I will be rude tomorrow." The actor who played Edward, Tommy Welling, smiled and said, "Don't worry, director, we're just going to play for a while and come back." Adam also promised, "Don't worry, Alice, I will keep an eye on them." Only then did Alice nod her head, and said, "Well, today is just an exception. If it wasn't for Mr. Adams' request, I definitely wouldn't agree. Go and come back soon." After hearing this, everyone immediately cheered and said, "Oh, long live the director, long live Mr. Stark." And Christine looked at Adam curiously, obviously realized that this playboy was a bit different from the legend, and he didn't touch himself, and he didn't threaten or take revenge on himself because of what happened that day. "It seems that I have to find a time to apologize later, and then get to know this playboy again." This kind of thought suddenly broke into her mind. At this time, Christine heard Adam's voice. "Okay, everyone, go over and pack up. We're leaving in half an hour. I'll go and pack up that bar first, so we can have a good time and no one will disturb you gone." After finishing speaking, he waved to everyone, and then left his assistant in the villa. Adam left the villa and came to the bar in the town, not the one where Wolverine met, in less than 10 minutes. After wrapping it up, he wrote a text message to Susan and sent the address of the bar. At this time, Adam suddenly thought of Logan, and realized that he hadn't asked for the phone number of the other party, so he had to drive to another small town and inquired about Logan's residence in a bar. The same person, so Adam quickly found Logan, who was sleeping soundly in the hotel. Logan was bare-chested, revealing his hard-covered muscles. He stroked his hair and asked, "Oh, Adam, what can you do for me?" Adam smiled and said, "I booked a bar in another small town, planning to hold a party for the crew. I remembered that you don't have any friends here, so I came over and invited you to have a few drinks together." Logan asked suspiciously, "The crew? Are you an actor?" "No, actors don't have that much power." "Are you the director?" Adam explained, "I'm not a director, but I'm a producer and a screenwriter. What, let's go together." Logan thought that he was fine, and it was rare for a friend to invite him to the party, so he nodded without hesitation, and said, "Okay, wait for me for a while." After speaking, he walked to the bathroom. 10 minutes later, Logan came out fully dressed, then left the hotel with Adam, and returned to the bar that Adam had booked. It has been more than an hour since the back and forth. The party has already started, the bar is full of loud music, and everyone is releasing their excess passion to their heart's content. Of course, because the people who came were all from the entertainment industry, some bottom lines were still maintained very well. After seeing the scene inside, Logan said with a smile, "It seems that there is no mystery in the entertainment industry." Adam shrugged and said, "They're all human, what's the difference? Don't talk about it, go to a bar. Of course, if you can meet a woman, that's your skill." Logan smiled after hearing this, and said, "Let's drink the bar first, and we'll talk about other things later." After speaking, he and Adam walked to a corner, chatting and drinking. Adam's drinking capacity has been practiced, especially after drinking with Logan last time. His drinking capacity has greatly increased, so this time drinking with Logan did not get drunk so quickly. The two of them will drink soon. I will dance with everyone on the stage in a while, very happy, and Logan also temporarily forgot about his memory loss. After all, it has been more than 10 years, so don't worry, the people who joined the crew began to play to their heart's content, very happy. At the end of the song, Adam and Logan returned to their seats. Logan lit a cigar and said, "I haven't felt so relaxed in a long time." Adam shrugged and said, "That's your own life. You're too tired. It doesn't matter if you don't know who you are, as long as you're alive and happy." Logan paused, and said, "Although that is the case, there are some things I still want to know." After hearing this, Adam said, "Okay, it's up to you, but I have some connections in New York. I'll check it out for you when I get back to New York." Logan took a sip of his cigar and said, "Thanks, brother." Adam laughed, and said, "Since everyone said they're brothers, then don't be polite. If you don't get drunk today, you won't come home. Cheers." Logan smiled and said, "Well, cheers." On the other side, Christine has been observing Adam, watching Adam and Logan drinking and chatting together. It is impossible to see that he is a rich second generation with a net worth of tens of millions, which makes Christine very confused. Christine gritted her teeth, picked up a glass of red wine and came to Adam's side, and said softly, "Mr. Stark, can we have a chat?" After seeing it, Logan stood up, gave Christine a seat, and then found a target to leave here. Adam obviously didn't expect that Christine would find him. Although he was very puzzled, he still said, "Sit down." Sitting opposite Adam, Christine said with a blushing face, "Mr. Stark, I'm sorry about that last time, I was overthinking it." Of course Adam wouldn't mind that, because it's over, isn't it? So he shrugged his shoulders and said, "Okay, I've forgotten about that matter a long time ago, how is it? The new assistant treats you okay?" Christine nodded and said, "Well, Ms. Emma has treated me very well, thank you Mr. Adam for your help." Adam waved his hand and said, "Okay, don't thank me again and again, come, have a drink, and let's settle down." Christine drank the red wine in the glass in one gulp, leaving Adam stunned. He hadn't seen many women drinking like this before, interesting. Christine also realized that her actions were not ladylike, so she smiled awkwardly and said, "That, Mr. Stark." Adam interrupted her and said, "Call me Adam, Mr. Stark is too out of touch." Christine nodded and said, "Okay, Adam, it's time for me to leave, that's it." At this moment, the music on the field turned into a romantic dance music. Adam stood up with a smile, came to Christine and said, "Beautiful lady, can I dance for my face?" Christine drank a lot, felt a little dizzy, and Adam's smile looked very attractive in such a hazy environment, so Christine, who was about to go back, nodded in a mysterious way, and followed Adam to the stage superior. Romantic dance music, dreamy lighting, and the effect of alcohol made Christine feel like he was floating in heaven. Adam's constant masculinity made Christine feel intoxicated in this atmosphere. So she couldn't help but bury her head on Adam's shoulder and quietly enjoy the romantic atmosphere. Christine was already fascinated by Adam's sweet words, and murmured, "Yes, I am a rose, but it's a pity that my thorns were cut off by you, and I can no longer resist you." Adam showed a charming smile and said, "Really? Then I have to try it." After speaking, he gently bit Christine's lips. Because the lights in the bar were dim, no one noticed the actions of these two people, and even if someone did, they would pretend they didn't see them. After all, depending on the situation, it was clear that it was your wish, and they couldn't be bothered. Christine's lust was provoked proficiently by Adam in this way. She was no longer satisfied with kissing and wanted to have further contact, so she kept panting heavily and said, "I'm going crazy, take me away quickly." Of course, Adam would not refuse the beautiful lady, so he greeted Logan on the other side, and then quietly left the bar with Christine. After walking out of the bar, Christine was a little sobered by the cold wind, and found that she had already gotten into the car with Adam. Of course, she was aware of what was going to happen later, although she was not that unwilling to have a relationship with Adam, but it seemed to be too fast, which made her a little confused. Noticing the change in Christine, Adam parked the car on the side of the road, then held Christine's hand, and asked with concern, "What's wrong?" Christine lowered her head and said, "Aren't we a bit fast?" Adam was silent for a while, and said with a smile, "That's right, it's really fast, okay, I'll take you back." Christine was startled when she heard what Adam said, and said, "Don't. It's not that I don't want to, it's just. She doesn't know how she feels about Adam now, she must like it a little bit, after all, the other party who has been observing for the past few days, the other party has appeared in her heart." She heard Adam said that she would send her back, and thought Adam was angry, so he spoke quickly. Adam could probably guess Christine's mood, and said with a smile, "Hee, fool, don't worry, I'm not angry, and I won't want you." When Christine heard Adam's words, she gritted her teeth and said, "I'm not ready yet, but I can prove that I'm in love with you." Adam shook his head and said, "Hee, no need, we were just a little impulsive because of the atmosphere, so there is no rush." Although he was really provoked just now, since the other party was somewhat resistant, Adam would definitely not force himself or get angry, because he didn't have such a little self-control, so he was still a superhero and he could just be a supervillain. Christine did not answer, but proved her words with actions. She held Adam down, bent down to untie the chain and took out the angry little Adam. She paused, as if frightened by its ferocious appearance, and when Adam was about to refuse, Christine gave Adam a charming look and then began to swallow gently, slowly dissipating its anger. Dash 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 dash. Back to 2 days ago, the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. A special discussion meeting is going on here. As a representative of the Mutant Dove faction, the Phoenix girl Chin Gray is wearing an OL suit and glasses, standing in the middle of the conference room with a scholarly style, explaining about mutants to members of Congress. Some common sense. Jean Grey played a short video to the congressman, and then explained, "There is a hidden gene in our human genes, which we call the X gene. This gene is generally hidden, and only a few people activate it by accident. This X gene, and this situation is called the awakening of mutants, and it can also be called the awakening of superpowers. Therefore, we can think that mutants do not exist independently of humans, but are the result of human evolution." A congressman was very interested in this and asked, "Dr. Chin, excuse me, does that mean that all of us here may become mutants?" Chin Gray smiled and said, "Yes, everyone here may become the parents of mutants, because everyone has missed the best time for awakening. Personal opinion, nothing to do with movies and comics. Awakening of mutants, we have observed that the best time is childhood, because the outside world has the greatest influence on us during this period. For example, being stimulated or developing during the menstrual period, etc." Quote. It was a silver-haired congressman who stood up and sarcastically said, "Thank you, Ms. Gray, for your wonderful explanation, which is very educational, but you seem to have gotten off topic. In a word, are mutants dangerous?" Chin Gray was a little helpless, but still said with a smile on her face, "This question is not appropriate, Congressman Kelly. We will also cause danger by driving." Congressman Kelly sneered and said, "That's why we take the driver's license test." Jean Grey said indifferently, "However, there is no license to survive." Gentlemen, you all advocate the disclosure of the identity of mutants, but have you ever thought about the consequences? This will cause panic, conflicts and even violent attacks, so I request Congress to repeal the Mutant Registration Act and stop mandatory disclosure of mutant identities. At this time, Congressman Kelly's subordinates brought him a piece of information, so he was more confident, and said sarcastically, disclosing your identity. HMPH, why are they hiding their identities? What are you going to do in hiding? Chin Gele was already a little angry, calmed down, and explained. They didn't hide, they hid their identities just because they didn't want to be rejected and discriminated against by ordinary humans, that's all. Congressman Kelly stood up and looked at the information in his hand, and said, I know where they are hiding, hee. Listen, here is the information about mutants hidden in the United States. There is a girl who can go through walls, what if she goes to the bank? What if it's your house? There is a person who can create flames, how can such a person let him go to school with our children? We have the right to keep them away from our children. Congressman Kelly's words were supported by more people, and everyone applauded. Congressman Kelly smiled triumphantly, and said loudly, Gentlemen, the fact is that mutants do exist, and they are hiding around us. We should find them out, study their abilities, understand them thoroughly, and control hidden dangers. Most of these people applauded to express their support for Congressman Kelly, disappointing Chin Gree standing in the center and Professor X standing in the crowd. At this moment, Professor X saw a familiar figure in the crowd and frowned. Wrinkled, pushed the wheelchair and followed. On the second floor, Nick Fury patted the table angrily in the office, saying, study their abilities, understand them thoroughly, and control hidden dangers. Good ambition, good idea. Could this idiot I don't know that the information we gave him on the mutants is to make him retreat. Does this guy want to rely on those ordinary soldiers to solve these difficult mutants? Who contacted this guy? Tell him to report directly to the African branch after he returns. Agent Hill, who was standing beside him, frowned and said, our people just discovered the traces of Magneto, and he also participated in this meeting. It seems that they are ready to take action. Nick Fury rubbed his forehead with some headaches, and asked, our people are not injured. Agent Hill shook his head and said, no, Professor X happened to be here too, and he helped us. Nick Fury said, okay, you continue to have a good relationship with Professor X and the others. This time we will fully support the X-Men. I have to find a chance to meet with Mr. President again. I can't let the following group of idiots make trouble big enough. We are not the opponents of mutants yet. Agent Hill nodded and said, understood. Nick Fury nodded and asked, did you find Xia Ying? Hill shook his head and said, no, it's been almost a week. Xia Ying has not been fooled except for occasional appearances when he really needs help. Now we can be sure that the opponent's technological strength is not weaker than our shield surveillance. Nick Fury sighed, and said, it's really troublesome. Forget it, you follow up on the X Academy and mutants first. It seems that another plan should be carried out ahead of time. Hill was surprised when he heard this, and said, didn't Mr. Howard say that it is impossible to succeed now? Nick Fury said, we can't wait any longer. We can still accept some losses, and I have found the corresponding talents. There are a few special people on General Ross's side, and they have almost cracked that thing. It's time for us to intervene. Quote, America, X Academy, location, confidential time, 1 day before. In the principal's office, Professor X and others are having a meeting, discussing what Magneto and the others want to do. Cyclops said with a serious face, I think there is a conspiracy in it. Professor X nodded, and said, well, Magneto and the others must be preparing a conspiracy. I know my friend very well. He is not the kind of person who is willing to let it go. Chin Gree said, the problem is, we need to know their conspiracy. Storm nodded and said, that's right, so we can make corresponding preparations. Professor X continued, it seems that I have to use the brain domain enhancement machine to see what my old friend is doing. Scott and Aurora, you two, prepare, and set off when I have the news to stop Magneto's attack plan. Cyclops and the others nodded after hearing this, expressing their understanding. Then go back and start sorting out the equipment needed for departure. After a while, Chin Gele pushed Professor X's wheelchair back to the principal's office, but Professor X looked tired and not in a good mood, and said, I have found the trace of the saber-toothed tiger. He is on the train to Canada. You are far away. Follow him from afar to see what he is going to do. As for Chin, stay at the school and be ready to support them. The X-Men got the order, nodded and drove the stealth fighter out of the X Academy. equals 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 time restoration equals 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 Canada, Alberta, unknown town road. In a car parked by the side of the road, there was a comfortable sigh, and then the tranquility returned. Inside the car, Christine raised her head and said in a low voice, "Don't get me wrong, I'm just afraid of feeling uncomfortable." Adam touched Christine's face and said, "Okay, I know, don't think too much about it." Christine nodded slightly and said, "Yes." Adam restarted the car and said, "It's late, let's go back first." After speaking, he drove away. What happened this time was somewhat beyond his expectations. He originally only wanted to have a one-night stand or something, but he didn't expect that the other party would actually be sincere to him. This surprised Adam, and at the same time, he suddenly had a feeling the urge to talk about a relationship. This is an unprecedented feeling after the girl died. He looked at Christine with a shy smile on his face, and said to himself, maybe it would be nice to have a relationship. Natalie must hope so too. Single quote. Natalie was his first love, the young girl who died of a terminal illness. The reason why Adam never fell in love but wandered around all kinds of parties to have fun is because his first love was too thorough and he couldn't let it go, so he deliberately indulged himself. Christine's move made him suddenly want to fall in love. Don't think that such things are normal in the free world of the United States. This is wrong. Maybe they will indulge themselves, but if she has no love for Adam, she will not wrong herself to serve Adam, so Adam will have the decision to fall in love again. The girl's action is successfully resurrected, not a typo, broke Adam's heart. The car stopped. Adam got out of the car first and opened the car door for Christine, and walked into the villa with Christine. At this time, they met director Alice and her royal photographer Rock Hogan. Alice looked at the two suspiciously, and said, "Hee hee, you are back, how are you playing?" Adam smiled and said, "Very well, if you ask me, you should be at the party, it's very lively." Christine was not as thick-faced as him, blushing slightly, and said, "Well, I drank too much today, so I'll go back and rest first." After speaking, they left in a hurry before they could reply. Rock Hogan smiled after seeing it. "Hee hee, it's nice to be young." Alice didn't think so, and said to Adam helplessly, "Mr. Adam, I know you are an investor and I shouldn't blame you, but if you want to make this movie well, don't mess around in the crew." Adam knew what Alice was going to say, so he smiled and said, "Don't worry, I didn't mess around. I'm serious this time, and I promise not to go too far before the movie is finished." Alice knew that since Adam had said so, she could only trust him. She nodded and said, "Okay, I hope you can do it." After speaking, she took the royal photographer and left. Adam shrugged after seeing it, knowing that Alice's reputation as a playboy made Alice lack trust in herself, but this time he really wants to have a relationship, so he doesn't care what you think, as long as Christine understands you can do what you want. With this in mind, Adam returned to his bedroom. The next day, Adam got up early, went out to buy some breakfast from the supermarket, and knocked on Christine's door. The door was opened, and Christine, who was wearing blue jeans and a brown sweater, appeared at the door. When he saw Adam at the door in the bag in his hand, he blushed and stepped aside to open the door. Adam smiled and walked in. Christine looked at Adam's appearance, chuckled, and said, "Didn't the crew provide breakfast? Why did you go out and buy it yourself?" Adam laughed and said, "I'm not used to the crew's breakfast, so I sell it from the supermarket in the town every day. The owner of the supermarket is a Chinese. His breakfast is not bad. Try it." Christine's heart warmed after hearing this, and she thought to herself, is this what it feels like to be in love? It's such a wonderful feeling. I don't know if Adam is serious or just wants to have fun. Alas, even if it's fake, I still want to have a good relationship. As a child star, Christine spent her childhood and girlhood in a studio, so she has never been in a relationship until now, and she has been scolded behind her back several times for stone girls, etc., so for herself she was somewhat looking forward to her first love, but also a little uneasy. What is Adam's vision? Of course he found the uneasiness hidden in Christine's eyes, walked over to hug her gently, and said, "Christine. Honey, listen to me. I really wanted to have love with you last night, the kind that adults know, but your kindness and your hazy love made me wake up. I am ready to have a good relationship with you. This is true, Christine, I am ready to chase you. Christine was very happy after hearing this, and kept saying in her heart, he cares about himself, Adam cares about me, otherwise he would definitely not say these things to me. Oh my God, is this the taste of love? I think I've fallen. Single quote. Thinking about it this way, this brave girl who dares to love and hate has already proved her excitement and happiness with practical actions. A long kiss, French, does not require special learning, the kind that only people in love can truly love. The taste of happiness. Adam has super breathing, so of course he won't be afraid of suffocation, but Christine doesn't have this function. But then again, did he awaken this ability for the French kiss? Well, I'm thinking about it. If I don't end this long kiss, Christine will pass out. Adam moved his mouth away, watching the beauty leaning against him and panting continuously, suddenly felt that the feeling of being in love is really good. I like it. When Christine was relieved, Adam smiled and said, "Baby, you are really great." After hearing this, Christine looked up, deliberately pretending to be proud, and said, "Of course, you have to treat me well. Hee hee, I'm hungry, let's have breakfast." Shy. So, the two got tired of being together, and you ate breakfast one bite at a time. Of course, in the process, they seemed to have degenerated into birds, and it was very difficult to finish the small breakfast. After breakfast, Adam knew about today's improved shooting, so he walked out of the room with Christine, shook hands calmly under everyone's weird eyes and came to the shooting location. Most of these people had seen Adam and Christine leave together last night, so why were they surprised? It's very simple. What surprised them was that the two people in front of them were playing for real, not simply having love, so these people who had heard of Adam's fame before couldn't help being curious and surprised. Could it be that the playboy was suppressed? Did Christine get it? After all, Christine's face was tender, so she broke away from Adam's hand and returned to the makeup artist, blushing and preparing for the shooting, while Adam smiled and came to the actress who stayed with Logan last night, and asked Logan's whereabouts. When Adam asked about Logan, the actor couldn't help showing lust in his eyes, then shook his head and said, "I don't know, I haven't seen him since I woke up this morning, but I left a note, it says I'm going back, no phone number left for me." She didn't twitch, and directly admitted that she and Logan slept together last night, and then complained. Of course, her purpose was to get to know Logan further or get Logan's phone number from Adam. It seems that after last night this one was tempted. After hearing this, Adam knew that the note left by Logan was probably for himself, so he smiled and said, "I'm sorry to disappoint you, and I don't have Logan's phone number. That guy doesn't seem to like people looking for I didn't see him using the phone. Let's film with peace of mind, we may meet again in the future." Hearing what Adam said, although the actress was very disappointed, she didn't ask any more questions, said something to Adam and left to prepare for filming. Soon, today's filming began. Because everyone had had a good time yesterday, everyone was very motivated, and the director was very satisfied. The filming went very well. But soon, the problem appeared. Kristen's shoot goes wrong. Among the scenes filmed today, there are scenes where the male lead and the heroine are lingering. Adam and Christine didn't know each other before, and he was a man, so this scene was quite explicit, requiring the actress to appear naked. Christine had some complaints about this role before, and she didn't want to play in person, but because her assistant and the agency at that time forced her to take the contract, she reluctantly agreed to act. After all, she still has to live, right? But it's different now, because after Adam knew the content of the next filming, he stopped the crew and prepared to rewrite the script. I don't agree. This plot is well written and doesn't need to be changed, and this can also be a highlight of our movie. Alice refuted Adam's request in displeasure. But Adam will not let his woman suffer, so he said, "This plot really needs to be changed, or use a substitute." Alice immediately shouted, "Stand in. I didn't mention this when I signed the contract. Mr. Adam, this is work. Although the two of you are in a relationship, you must understand that since Christine chose to be as an actor, you must respect this job, and since you have found an actor to be your girlfriend, then you should be a little bit mentally prepared. Moreover, it is too late to find a substitute now." Adam didn't care about the actor's spirit or psychological preparation, and said coldly, "Ms. Alice. This is my request." Alice was a little angry just now, but when she heard Adam's tone turned cold, she immediately remembered the identity of the person in front of her, and suddenly thought helplessly, that's why I don't want to deal with these people, alas. Single quote. Adam looked at Director Alice, who was distracted, and frowned. Director Alice. Director Alice came back to his senses and said, okay, since you are an investor, then you have the final say, but you can't change all of Christine's roles, or it will ruin the movie. Of course Adam knew this, so he just came up with an idea and said, you shoot the other parts first, and leave the kiss scene and bed scene about Christine at the end. I will use other methods to solve this matter. Director Alice hesitated after hearing this, and said, oh, well, I'll arrange it. Alice left without waiting for Adam to speak. She was really angry and secretly decided not to cooperate with Shiguang Film Company in the future. This man is too difficult to serve. If he falls in love with another woman in the next movie. After Director Alice left, Christine, who had been silent by Adam's side, said softly, thank you, Adam. She is very unwilling to act in a passionate scene. Hugging and misplaced kissing are her limit. She was threatened by the company with a contract before and could not refuse, but now that she has Adam, she will not wrong herself. Adam smiled lightly and said, little fool, don't be polite to me. If I can't even protect my girlfriend, then I'm still a man. Don't think too much about it. Prepare for the next scene. I'll go and see Logan, he's leaving today. Christine nodded and said, well, okay, then I'm going to film. After speaking, Adam pecked on Adam's lips and ran away. Adam smiled slightly, then called Susan to tell her where he was going, and asked her to take care of Christine before leaving the set. After galloping all the way, half an hour later, Adam came to the homeless bar again, and found Logan who was gambling with others in the bustling backyard. He was in a boxing match with a man who looked stronger than him, casually fooling the strong man in front of him. After watching it, Adam smiled and shouted, hey, Logan, I'm here. After hearing this, Logan forced the opponent back, then turned to look at Adam and said, haha, you're late. If you don't come, I might leave directly. Adam shrugged after hearing this, and said, you know what I do, you just rushed over after solving some problems. The two were chatting happily over there, but they angered the strong man who was gambling. He gritted his teeth and thought, since you look down on me and turn around when you are fighting with me, then I will definitely show you what it means to fight. The consequences of pissing off Zack the Madman. Single quote. With that in mind, he pulled out his belt and hit Logan fiercely, but how could his small action be hidden from the mutant Wolverine who has beast-like intuition? One turned around and kicked, and with a bang, a 100-kilogram strong man was kicked off the ground, and then hit hard on the barbed wire, humming and struggling but couldn't stand up again. He didn't die. Logan lit a cigar, came to the host Fatty's side, and after getting his reward, came to Adam's side. Logan raised the money in his hand and said, let's go, I'll treat you today. Adam was also polite, and said, okay, let's not get drunk today. Then he returned to the bar with Logan, ordered a glass of wine and started drinking. Logan took a deep puff on his cigar and said, hey, brother, how were you doing last night? It was a good harvest, that girl is very beautiful. Adam smiled and said, hey man, I think I'm in love. It's funny that I didn't do anything last night, isn't it? Logan already knew Adam's identity, so he also knew that this one often appeared in entertainment reports, and together with his younger brother Tony Stark, he was dubbed the Stark brother by those media. Logan didn't quite believe that Adam would really fall in love, and said, aha, then congratulations, it seems that you are really going to fall in love, haha. Cheers to the loss of a playboy in New York. Adam didn't explain after watching it, and had a drink with Logan, suddenly remembered the actress, and said jokingly, oh, by the way, there was an actress who begged me to get your phone number back before I came. It seems that you are not simple, it is so easy to make a star fall in love with you. Logan is not a fresh meat. Hearing this, he smiled, really? It's a pity that I don't have a phone, otherwise I would definitely tell her. Do you know, she was really great last night, I don't think I have encountered such a hot one, it's enough. At this moment, the door of the bar was opened, and a young and beautiful girl walked in awkwardly, making everyone look at her, because there are very few such beautiful women entering this place. Little Naughty Mary was originally a beautiful girl living in a happy family, and she also had a boyfriend who was not too handsome but loved her very much. Although Mary didn't know whether she loved him very much, she felt that the relationship with him had reached a point where it could be further developed, so on a romantic Saturday, she brought her boyfriend home. Mary's parents were also very satisfied with her boyfriend, and after chatting for a while, they made time for young people. Mary happily took her boyfriend to visit her bedroom, and told her boyfriend some of her thoughts after graduating from high school. Friends, listen. We all know that when a lonely man and a widow are together, especially when they are still interested in each other, they definitely want to do some romantic things, so the two kiss naturally. This is normal, isn't it? Young people have always been like this. However, the problem arose in Mary. The X gene hidden in Mary's body was awakened under such circumstances. She awakened and became a mutant, so her uncontrolled mutant ability made her almost suck her boyfriend. Turned into a mummy. Ah! A bleak scream made Mary's parents, who were chatting below, run into Mary's bedroom. Mary's father glanced at Mary, and then found the trembling boy lying on the bed, and said anxiously, "Quickly, call an ambulance." Mary's mother cared about her child and asked, "Mary, what happened?" Mary was terrified, and kept crying, saying, "I just touched it, really, I didn't intend to harm him." After hearing this, Mary's mother was going to go over to comfort her child, but the sensitive Mary didn't dare to let her mother touch her, and said anxiously, "Don't touch me." After seeing it, Mary's father said sharply, "Quickly, call an ambulance." Mary's mother had to go out and call an ambulance. When the ambulance came, the doctor concluded that it was the boy's disease, but Mary still cried and said it was her fault. Mary's parents frowned slightly but didn't say anything. After a few weeks of this, Mary's boyfriend left her, and Mary found herself different. At this time, the existence of mutants was exposed. Mary's parents were worried that their child would be taken away by the police, so they agreed to let her leave the United States alone. After all, as ordinary people, they were also a little afraid of their children, so Mary left on her own. This is already the best choice. Faced with such a situation, although Mary was a little frustrated at first, she decided to go to Canada, which she had always wanted to visit, and spent nearly a week on her solo trip. On this day, she stopped a truck and asked the driver to take her to Lafayette, and then fell asleep in the car due to the long journey. After about a few hours, the driver woke her up and told her that she had arrived. Mary frowned and looked around, and said, "Hey, the place I'm going to is Lafayette City." The driver snorted and said, "This is Lafayette City," and pointed to an old sign that said Luofe City Township. Obviously the driver misheard her words. Seeing that the driver had already left, Mary sighed, feeling a little hungry, looked at the homeless bar across the road, and was about to go in for something to eat, and then see if there was a driver who could give her a ride, continue on travel. Mary walked into the bar and saw that everyone seemed to be looking at her. She came to the bar with some embarrassment, asked the boss for a cup of coffee and some snacks, ate carefully, and quietly observed the surroundings. Adam and Logan were sitting not far from Mary, drinking happily. At this moment, the TV in the bar started broadcasting news about the Mutant Registration Act, diverting everyone's attention to it. It said that a joint meeting of various countries would be held on Ellis Island in Manhattan, USA to discuss the issue of mutants matter. Logan paused slightly after hearing this, but didn't say anything. And Adam curled his lips and said, "These politicians are really weird. They just want the sky to fall. It's nothing more than the US's own mutant registration bill. They also want to set up a unstyle one. Isn't this poking a hornet's nest?" Logan took a sip of his wine and said, "This has nothing to do with us, we don't care what we drink." Adam shrugged his shoulders and thought to himself, how can it be okay? As a superhero, I must stop the conflict between humans and mutants. Isn't this just for me? It's rare for someone who is ready to have a serious relationship. It seems that we have to go back to New York tomorrow. Who knows how much trouble the mutants will cause in New York this time? Quote. Logan looked at it and asked, "What's wrong?" Adam said, "It seems that I have to go to New York tomorrow. I am a little worried about my family because I am worried that some extremists among the mutants will use this to make trouble." Logan didn't ask any other questions after hearing this, and said, "Okay, next time I go to New York, I'll find you for a drink." Adam laughed and said, "Haha, that's for sure, I'm waiting for you in New York. By the way, here's my business card, which is my private phone number. few people know it. Call me when the time comes, but you have to get a mobile phone, otherwise it will be troublesome. Logan put away the business card, took a puff of cigarette and said, hee, I'm used to it, and I haven't changed it for a while. At this moment, Zach, who was kicked unconscious by Logan, came over with a few people. He stared at Logan viciously, and said, hey, kid, give me back the money I won from betting just now, I already know what you are. Logan glanced at him lightly and said, get lost. And Adam laughed and said, hey, buddy, I advise you to take care of yourself, you say you know what he is, and you dare to talk to him like that. Zach said coldly, HMPH, whatever happens to you, little boy. Adam sneered, it seems that some people can't understand how much trouble they have caused without some lessons. Relying on the large number of people, Zach was not afraid of Adam's threat at all. He pointed a dagger at Logan and said, hey, take out all my money, or I will make you popular. Logan got angry, stood up and lifted Zach up with one hand and pressed it against the pillar beside him. With the other hand, his claws shone with cold light, and said lightly, do you want to die? Adam laughed, and said, if you don't die, you won't die. After speaking, he knocked out the troublemaker he was with super speed. The bar owner saw the diamond claws deep in Logan's fist and Adam's super speed, frowned and pointed a shotgun at Adam and Logan, saying, get out of my bar, you monsters. Adam frowned after hearing this, and said, if I were you, I wouldn't say that. After hearing this, the boss said coldly, get out. He loaded the shotgun with a click, and he was ready to shoot. Mary, who has been paying attention to this place, couldn't help reminding worriedly after seeing it, hey, be careful. After hearing this, Adam glanced at her with a smile, and then directly melted the front end of the shotgun with a heat ray, and said lightly, you are useless to us, next time you better not trust your own weapons too much. Adam had put on makeup when he came out, so no one here knew him, and this kind of small-town bar didn't have any surveillance equipment, so he had no scruples about using his superpowers and of course he wouldn't hurt anyone. Everyone was frightened by Adam and Logan, staring blankly, trembling all over, fearing that Adam and Logan would kill themselves. Logan frowned and said, looks like we have to leave. After speaking, he threw Zach to the ground, clapped his hands and walked out. Adam shrugged, then looked at Mary and said, I think you should leave with us, after all, you just reminded us that they will definitely be against you. The girl kindly reminded Adam that she could see it, so she was reluctant to let the girl stay alone in this bar where dragons and snakes mixed together. Mary also had the idea of walking with Adam and Logan in her heart. After all, this was the first time she saw someone like herself, which made her feel a little kind, and she was no longer alone. So she smiled and said, well, thank you, I'm a naughty sir. After speaking, she followed Adam and Logan and left the bar. Chapter 31. After getting out of the bar, Adam realized that it was already the early morning of the next day, and he and Logan had a night of drinking in the bar, so Adam not only smacked his tongue, but secretly said, it seems that Logan has trained me to drink more. Huh. At this time, Logan said to Adam, although I knew you were not simple, I never thought that your strength would be so strong. Logan realized that he could not keep up with the opponent's speed, so he sighed. When Adam heard this, he smiled and said, you are not simple, your pair of claws, I finally know how you are called Wolverine. Logan waved his hands and said, let's go to each other, haha, it's time for me to leave too. Let's say goodbye. After hearing this, Adam looked at the girl behind him and said, wait. There is one more thing. Following Adam's line of sight, Logan saw Mary behind Adam, frowned and said, what do you mean? Adam pointed to the girl, and said, since you are going to the next city, you should take the little rascal with you. After all, she just reminded us that it would be impossible to keep her here. By the way, she wants go to Lafayette City, just take her to a bigger city. Just now Adam chatted with this girl who claimed to be a little naughty, and knew that she wanted to go to Lafayette, but she was taken to this small town by an unscrupulous driver and ignored it, so he was waiting to get on the bus to the big city. Adam was worried that such a little girl, high school student, not yet graduated, would go on the road alone, so he let Logan take her, which was safer. Logan paused after hearing this, and asked, aren't you afraid? Mary shook her head. After all, she was also a mutant, so she wasn't afraid of Logan. Instead, she was a little excited and wanted to ask him a lot, so she didn't reject Adam's arrangement. Logan looked at Adam and said, "Okay, I will take her to the next city, and I don't care about the rest." After hearing this, Mary said, "It's okay, sir. After I get to the city, I can act on my own." Adam smiled and said, "Hee, since that's the case, then you guys should go on your way too. I'm going back to New York too. See you soon." Logan nodded and said, "Okay, I'll find you when I go to New York." After speaking, he took Mary to his RV, waved to Adam and left. Seeing them leave, Adam also drove away from the town, and called his assistant on the road, asking him to book a ticket back to New York for him, and drove the car all the way to the villa. After parking the car and walking into the living room of the villa, Adam noticed that his assistant was fully dressed and sitting on the sofa. Looking at this confused assistant, Adam smiled and walked over. Adam asked, "How is it? Is the plane ticket booked?" Susan nodded, and said, "Yes, boss, the plane ticket has been booked, and the plane will fly at noon, so that you can say goodbye to Miss Christine." After hearing this, Adam smiled and said, "Well, thank you, go back and rest for a while, you have to go back with me at noon." After hearing this, Susan said, "Okay, boss." After speaking, she left the living room. Seeing Susan's actions, Adam couldn't help laughing, and said softly, "Hee, this confused girl, I really don't know whether to call you smart or call you stupid." After sighing, he went back to his bedroom and washed his face. Get out of the shower and lie on a soft bed to catch up on sleep. About 2 hours later, Adam woke up, washed up, left the villa and came back after breakfast, and knocked on Christine's door again. The door opened, and Christine, who was wearing pink pajamas, opened the door. Seeing that it was Adam, she smiled, let Adam in, and then closed the door. As soon as Adam remembered that he was going back today, he pulled Christine and kissed him. After a while, he let go of Christine and held him in his arms. Christine kept panting heavily, and said, "Do you want me to suffocate to death?" Adam giggled and said, "How can I be willing?" Christine rolled her eyes and said, "I hate it. By the way, your friend has gone back." Adam nodded and said, "Well, Logan has already left, and I have to go back to New York." "What? Back to New York?" Christine was a little at a loss, but she knew that a man puts his career first, so she was silent for a while and asked, "When are you leaving?" Adam hugged Christine, kissed her on the forehead, and said, "Leave at noon today. Something happened in New York, I need to go over there. Don't worry, I will come to see you when the matter over there is over." Christine said, "Well, I'm just a little bit reluctant, and you know we've just started." Adam knew what Christine was worried about, so after another very ecstasy kiss, he said to Christine, who was about to fall in love, "Hee, don't worry, my baby, I will give it to you as soon as I have time, on the phone." Christine murmured, "Well, Adam, I love you." Adam said softly, "I love you too, Christine." Adam picked Christine up, put her on the bed and kissed him tenderly. After lingering like this for a while, except for not doing the last step, after doing everything else that should be done, after the joy, Adam hugged Christine, who was a little tired, took a bath together, and then ate a loving breakfast to replenish his strength. After breakfast, Adam and Christine walked out of the room together and found Susan waiting by the stairs on the second floor. Adam asked suspiciously, "Susan, what's the matter?" Seeing Adam heaved a sigh of relief, Susan said, "Boss, we should go. There is still some time before we get to the city from here. If we don't start, we will definitely be delayed." Hearing what Susan said, Adam looked at the time and found that he had spent almost 2 or 3 hours in Christine's room, and it was indeed time to leave. Adam coughed dryly and said, "Okay, Susan, go and pack up." After hearing this, Susan said, "It's all packed, and I'm waiting for the boss. I've been waiting for almost half an hour. If you don't come out again, I'm ready to knock on the door myself." Hearing Susan's words, Christine blushed and said, "Adam, since it's getting late, you can go." After Adam heard this, he said, "Okay, just keep filming and don't think about other things. I will come to see you when I have time." Christine nodded and said, "Well, take care of yourself too. I'll be waiting for you." After kissing Adam goodbye, she turned and went back to the bedroom, saying that she didn't want to see the parting scene. Adam smiled slightly, turned and went downstairs, and found that Director Alice was waiting for him below. Director Alice asked, "I heard from your assistant that you are going back to New York." Adam nodded and said, "Well, there are some things that need to be dealt with, I have caused you trouble these days." Director Alice shook her head and said, "Nothing, to be honest, if you are serious, you will definitely be able to be an excellent director." Adam knew that Alice had some doubts about his purpose after passing through Christine, but he didn't need to explain, so he shrugged and said, Maybe, Christine will trouble you to take care of it." After hearing this, Director Alice said, "Well, I see, don't worry, I will finish filming this scene as soon as possible. As for the bed scenes and kissing scenes, you need to solve them yourself, otherwise this movie will not be successful, will succeed." Adam smiled and said, "Don't worry about this, I've already figured out a way." "Well, it's getting late, and I should go too. Goodbye, Director Alice." After saying goodbye to the crew, he then drove away from the villa. After 2 or 3 hours of driving, Adam and Susan arrived at the airport, and then flew back to New York for a few hours very smoothly. After returning to New York, Adam first gave Susan a vacation and asked her to rest for a few days before going to work in the company. "Then I called my parents and Tony and told them I was back in New York." After Adam called his family to inform him, he returned to his beach villa. As soon as he entered the living room, Adam heard Athena's slightly happy voice, "Welcome back, Master." Adam smiled and said, "I'm back, Athena, is everything okay at home?" Athena nodded and said, "Well, everything is fine. Is the movie finished?" Because of the highest authority, she will not monitor Adam, so although she knows what Adam is doing, she doesn't know the details. Adam shook his head and said, "Not yet, it won't be so soon, it should take a month or 2. Athena snorted, and said, "So the Master came back because of the mutants?" Adam nodded, and said, "Well, I really didn't expect these congressmen to be so troublesome. It's nothing more than doing this in the United States, but they want to exclude mutants from all over the world. I'm really full, Athena. From today onwards, all corners of New York will be fully monitored, and Ellis Island will be the focus, so don't let those radical mutants make a big fuss." Athena nodded and said, "Okay, Master, I will pay attention." Adam smiled and said, "Well, let me know immediately if there is any trouble." Athena gave a naughty military salute and said, "Yes, sir." Then she disappeared. Dash 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 dash. On the other side, Logan took the naughty Mary to drive his own RV to the city ahead. Logan looked at Mary and asked, "Did you run away from home?" Mary shook her head and said, "No, I'm here for a trip." But when she thought that she might not be able to return home in the future, she couldn't help showing some loneliness and nostalgia. These Logan saw in his eyes. Although he was a little puzzled, he didn't continue to ask. At this moment, Mary looked at Logan's fist and asked, "Do you feel pain like just now?" Logan paused, and said, "Every time." After hearing this, Mary said, "Sorry, I don't know." "It's okay, I'm used to it." Logan smiled, and then saw Mary rubbing her hands, turned on the heater in the car, stretched out her hand, and said, "Put it on the stove." After speaking, he was about to grab Mary's hand, but Mary avoided it and put her own gloves on. Logan glanced at Mary and said, "Don't worry, I won't hurt you, child." But he was still a little sad. Mary shook her head and said, "No, you misunderstood. I am not afraid that you will hurt me, but I am afraid that I will hurt you." Logan was a little puzzled when he heard the words, and asked, "Oh, what's going on?" Mary explained, "I think, you and I should be of the same kind. If my hand touches others, it will hurt them. Although I don't want to do this, I can't control it." After hearing this, Logan was silent for a while, and comforted, "Everything will be fine, don't worry." Mary forced a smile after hearing this, and said, "Thank you for your kind words. By the way, the sign on your neck says Wolverine. Have you ever been a soldier?" Logan glanced at the iron plate and said, "I don't know." You can't really call me a naughty kid, can you? Through the chat just now, Mary has confirmed that the other party is a good person, so she smiled and said, my name is Mary. Logan smiled and said, hee hee, hello, Mary, my name is Logan. Logan has a subtle feeling for Mary, and regards this child as his own daughter, so he talked more, and said some jokes don't think wrong. Which made Mary laugh constantly, as if she had forgotten the reason to leave her family. Pain. For a while, there was cheerful laughter in the car, and the spiritual attraction, the two were lonely people, made them friends. Mary thought so, she didn't know that Logan had regarded her as own daughter. At this moment, a towering tree on the side of the road suddenly fell to the middle of the road with a bang, and collided violently with the RV that was too late to brake. After a sound of glass shattering, Logan, who was not wearing a seat belt, was thrown out. Logan shook his neck and stood up. The horrible scars all over his body disappeared in just a few seconds, and he couldn't see the appearance of just being injured at all. Logan looked at the stump of the tree in the middle of the road, and frowned. It was obvious that it was broken artificially, and he secretly guarded against another sneak attack. At this moment, he heard Mary's cry for help, and hurried over and asked, hey, are you okay? Mary's leg got stuck, and somehow the RV caught fire, and the gas tank was thrown out in the accident just now, and the car was about to explode when it landed on the edge of the fire. Mary called Logan for help in fear, hoping that the other party would rescue herself quickly. After hearing what Logan said, she shouted, my foot is stuck, and the car is about to explode. After hearing this, Logan said, wait, I'll come and rescue you right away. After speaking, he slowly approached the car while guarding himself. Just when Logan came to the front of the car, he mentioned the whistling sound coming from behind. Logan sneered and popped out 6 claws, turned around and stabbed the claws fiercely into the shoulders of the visitor. The one who attacked Wolverine was a tall man with blonde long hair and green eyes full of evil spirit. He had 4 canine teeth like Logan. With a roar, he grabbed Logan's hands and slammed Logan. Root fell on the front of the car, and the terrifying force made Logan faint at that moment. The man looked at Logan and frowned, as if he was thinking about something, but was awakened by Mary's call, and walked towards the car door with a smile. At this moment, the ice and snow all over the sky were suddenly wrapped by a mysterious force and hit the tall man. The tall man turned and looked into the distance, and found 2 people in black uniforms. They were his old rival, Storm from X-Men. Female and Cyclops. Realizing that his old opponent seemed to be trying to grab his prey, the tall man opened his mouth and roared. Cyclops looked at the tall man indifferently, and said, saber-toothed tiger, who is your target? The tall man, the saber-toothed tiger in Cyclops' mouth, sneered and roared, get out. Storm looked at the RV in the distance, and said, hurry up, the RV is about to explode, let's not care about the saber-toothed tiger, it's important to save people. Cyclops nodded, and then pressed the switch of the glasses. A red laser beam shot out, hitting the place where the saber-toothed tiger was standing just now. Avoiding Cyclops' attack, the saber-toothed tiger chuckled and said, you can't shoot me. Cyclops sneered, and said, really? Then I'll try it. After speaking, the laser beam shot out desperately, causing the saber-toothed tiger to keep on its hind legs, and finally glanced at Logan lying on the front of the car, and then jumped into the forest and left. Cyclops and Storm looked at each other, then hurried to the RV and rescued Logan and Mary. Not long after they ran out, the RV exploded with a bang. Mary looked at the RV in fear, and then said to Cyclops and Storm, thank you for your help, how is Logan? Cyclops said lightly, he's fine. He just passed out. After hearing this, Mary groaned, and then asked, who are you? Cyclops didn't answer, but looked at Storm questioningly. Storm took out a device to check on Mary, and then nodded to Cyclops. Cyclops sees it before explaining, we're from the Xavier School for Gifted Children, or X School or X Academy for short, and we're mutants just like you. Mary was taken aback when she heard this, and said, School X. Are there any students in class? Storm could probably guess the experience of the girl in front of her, so she said softly, well, there is indeed a school, full of mutant students like you. We are the teachers of the school, where you can not only learn to control with my mutant ability, I will also learn the same scientific knowledge as other schools, and of course I will have many friends. Storm's words made Mary yearn, and asked, can I go to school too? Storm smiled and said, "Of course, we welcome all mutants to come to our school. Would you like to visit the school with us? And this one needs us to take him back for treatment." Mary was very excited. She no longer felt lonely, and Logan was still in a coma. Since they said they would treat him, it would be a good choice to go and have a look. Thinking so, Mary nodded and boarded the X-Men fighter. Manhattan, New York, evening. Adam just got out of the company when he received a call from Tony. "Brother, what are you up to? You haven't asked me for a drink since you came back for 3 days. How many drinks will you go out tonight? I'll treat you." Adam apologized after hearing this. "I'm sorry, Tony, something happened recently. I can't be distracted. I can't accompany you tonight. You go alone first." After hearing this, Tony knew it was about Sha Ying, so he said, "Okay, let's talk next time." Adam put away the phone, went home directly and asked Athena to call out the defense layout of Ellis Island, and carefully studied how to remedy any accidents. After all, most of the people who came to Ellis Island this time were the second in commands from various countries. If something happens to them, it will be a disaster for the United States, and it may cause a war. This is not the result Adam wants, so Adam has been discussing these things with Athena in addition to going to work normally. Question. At this moment, Athena suddenly called up a video, saying, "Master, the mutants are dispatched. Dozens of mutants have been found near Ellis Island and are attacking the police. The scene is very chaotic and has caused many casualties." Quote. Adam sighed, and said, "I knew it would be like this. Well, I'm going." After speaking, he disappeared suddenly. Ellis Island is an island located in Upper New York Bay, southwest of Manhattan, New York. It was the main immigration checkpoint in the United States from 1892 to 1943. It closed in 1954 and is now a museum where modern Americans trace their roots. Arranging the location of this multinational joint meeting here is also because of the above reasons, implying that mutants who want to live in the United States must be inspected by the government, otherwise they will not be able to live in the United States at all. Mutants living at the bottom of the United States have always been discriminated against, living an inhuman life in hiding, just because they are mutants, because they have strange powers, just like the blacks decades ago, because of their skin color being rejected. They have always been silent about these rejections, and most of the mutants have never thought about using their abilities to gain respect or take revenge on society. Most of them hate their abilities, are afraid of ordinary humans, and passively accept society's discriminate. But now everything is different. When the government issued the Mutant Registration Act, to compulsorily announce their identities, the grievances that have been accumulated are finally about to explode, because most of them will not be able to survive after their identities are disclosed. This is depriving them of their right to live. In an abandoned church in Queens, more than 30 people have gathered. Most of these people are wearing street clothes, with pale faces and numb eyes, staring at the middle-aged man standing in the center who is talking endlessly. The middle-aged man was wearing a priest's robe and gold-rimmed glasses, and he looked very gentle, but what he said now had nothing to do with being gentle. He was very excited and shouted to the crowd below, "Brothers, you are all a group of honest people, and you have not used your ability to commit crimes, otherwise your life would not have fallen to this point, but now the government is forcing us to die. Do you think we can agree?" A few young people in punk outfits shook their heads excitedly and said, "No. We want revenge." However, those middle-aged or elderly people standing numbly are obviously confused about the future life. After the priest saw it, a red gleam flashed in his eyes, and he said sharply, "What are you waiting for? Are you going to resist until those humans have wiped us out? We are the messengers of God, and our strength is God's. My fellow citizens, don't be afraid of your own power. We have the power to change this world. Let us use our own power to change this corrupt world." A strange red light suddenly appeared in the numb eyes of more than 30 people below, watching the priest shout intermittently, "We want revenge. We want to change the world." There was a sneer at the corner of the priest's mouth, and he said lightly, "Very well, everyone, since those politicians don't want us to have a better life, then they don't want to have a better life either. Let's go, vent your anger, vent your grievances." The people below shouted, "Yes, let those politicians know how powerful our mutants are." The priest clapped his hands, and 2 men in black wearing sunglasses walked out from the door at the side, looked at the crowd below, and said, Father, you are really powerful, you can control so many mutants so quickly. The priest smiled faintly, and said, what's so great? My ability can only control mutants. Well, the things I promised you have been done, and I should go back. The other man in black smiled and said, it's because of this that they succeeded this time. By the way, they won't lose control all of a sudden, right? The priest smiled proudly and said, don't worry, it won't happen, unless Professor X makes a move or someone stuns them, but by the time those people find out the problem, our goal has been achieved, so there is nothing to worry about. The man in black nodded after hearing this, and said, if that's the case, then you can go back. The priest saluted slightly, turned and left the church. After the priest left, the man in black sneered and said, what a coward. I dare not go to the scene for fear of being caught. The man in black said indifferently, that's why he has been able to live until now, and his ability is only to control mutants, and he is still a mutant at or below the 3rd level, so it is not shameful for him to be afraid of death. The man in black shrugged and said, okay, how should we control these people? The man in black said coldly, it's none of your business, you should take care of yourself. Don't make trouble for me. After hearing this, the man in black said, okay, you're the boss. The man in black glanced at him lightly, then came to the front of more than 30 mutants, and shouted, everyone get on the bus. After speaking, he pointed to a bus parked in front of the church. 30 or so mutants walked into the car door without any resistance, and then sat in their respective seats and waited quietly. If it wasn't for the red light that kept flashing in their eyes, the man in black would have thought they were normal people. The bus started, and after a short walk, it came to the southwest of Manhattan, on the way to Ellis Island. At this time, Ellis Island has been taken over by the police and the army because of this meeting. Everyone on guard was nervous about the bus that suddenly appeared on the road. Is something going to happen? The bus slowly stopped in front of the cordon. A policeman held a pistol in one hand, walked over, knocked on the door, and shouted, hey, man, this place has been taken over by the army, and tourists are not accepted. The door of the bus was opened, and a middle-aged man got out of the car, looked at the museum opposite, and said, God's lackey, go to hell. The middle-aged man waved his right hand, and the air in front of him was instantly compressed, turning into a sphere. Following the middle-aged man's thoughts, he hit the policeman hard, and the policeman was smashed into pieces with a bang, and blood flowed out. Land. Several policemen at the outpost saw the scene, quickly pressed a red button, and shouted loudly, mutants are coming. After speaking, they took out their pistols and started shooting. Seeing that the police fought back, the man in black who drove the car sneered and said, hey, buddy, I leave the following people to you. We'll wait for you inside. After speaking, he drove away. The middle-aged man who got out of the car had a crazy smile on his face, he kept waving his hands, and fired air cannons at the police desperately. However, as a 2nd-level mutant, his strength is not that powerful. After firing the air cannon for more than 10 minutes, the troops rushed over for reinforcements were shot into a sieve. After the army shot the air cannon middle-aged man into a sieve, they left the scene to support the police inside. After a while, Adam rushed to the scene, looked at the corpse on the ground, frowned and said, this is a suicide attack at all, who did it? After hearing this, Athena said, Master, I'll check their identities, maybe we can find clues. Ellis Island was attacked by mutants, but when Adam rushed to the scene, he found that the other party was carrying out a suicide attack, which made Adam feel that things were not that simple. Adam contacted Athena and said, Athena, I don't think the matter is simple, this is simply a suicide move. Athena nodded and said, well, Master, I will start to investigate the origins of these people and see if they are members of a cult. Adam frowned and listened to the gunshots and screams in the distance, and said, well, hurry up. The army has already fought against them, I will save people first. After speaking, he kicked his feet and instantly accelerated to the place where the gunshots were the closest. Run in a fierce direction. When Adam arrived, 30 or 40 soldiers were using their own vehicles as cover to shoot at the mutants using their mutant abilities. Dozens of soldiers and 4 or 5 mutants were already lying on the ground, which was very tragic. Adam looked at the red eyes of those people opposite, took a breath and then squirted it out suddenly. A gust of cold air was blown out by Adam to freeze the mutants, causing them to lose control of their bodies. Right after Adam freezes the mutants, a soldier thumps and shoots the frozen mutants. After watching it, Adam caught the bullet with a whoosh and turned around. What do you want to do? Don't you see that I have subdued them? A young soldier, who was the one who fired the gun, stared at Adam fiercely, and said excitedly, they killed Jem, he just got married a week ago, how dare they? Oh, I want to kill him. Kill them. Why do you want to stop me? After Adam heard this, he said, enough. Don't make trouble anymore. Do you know their identities? They are ordinary people, and they are also the objects of your protection. They have been used by others, and today's incident will be punished by law. You can't take revenge in private, remember soldier, you are a soldier. Athena sent him the information of these people just now. All of them are people living at the bottom of society, and except for a few who are new gangsters, most of them are good citizens without any criminal records, and they all have their own crimes. Family. Adam has already confirmed that this is a conspiracy. Although I don't know why these people carried out suicide attacks, after today's attack, Congress will definitely pass the Mutant Registration Act unanimously, and the US military will definitely not let it go. Someone wants to start a battle between the US government and mutants. Hearing Adam's words, the young soldier said coldly, how do I know if what you said is true, and who knows if you are a mutant? Adam understood the other party's mood, but he couldn't let the hatred continue to spread, so he said, which one of you is the captain? I have something for you to look at, and then you will know whether what I said is true. The one lying behind you is our captain. He has a 3-year-old child. A black man answered Adam's question in a cold voice. Now Adam was a little embarrassed. He took out a device and handed it to the young man, saying, okay, I understand your feelings, but before you make a decision, please read this information. As for what do you want to do after reading it? I don't care what to do. Adam activated the device, played the information given by Athena, and let the surviving soldiers watch it, then left and ran to the next target, because he knew that the other party was a law-abiding civilian, so Adam played his own the maximum speed, ready to save their lives before the army kills them, otherwise those planners will really succeed. In this way, through Adam's best efforts, a total of about 20 mutants and hundreds of soldiers were saved. After freezing all the mutants with air conditioning, Adam met with the military's top command on site. Hello, General Michel, I have something here that I need you to look at. Adam handed over the information in his hand to the angry general. After Adam rescued a few mutants just now, the general didn't give Adam a good face. After reading the information, General Michel pondered for a while, and said, so, these people are ordinary mutants, but how can that prove that their attack this time was not voluntary? Adam nodded and said, obviously, sir, this is a premeditated attack. The most important thing for us now is to find the mastermind behind this, otherwise there will definitely be an accident on the day of the joint meeting. Call out the video and play it for the other party to watch. The mutants in the video were forcibly taken into a dilapidated lecture hall by a few gangsters. After a while, a bus came from a distance and stopped outside the church. The last one was these mutants in two wearing sunglasses. The picture of the men in black walking into the bus led by Athena obtained the information by invading the surveillance satellites, which can fully prove that these people were coerced. Michelle frowned after watching the video, and said, okay, I will report this to my superiors, and thank you for saving my soldier just now, Mr. Shying. Adam shook his head and said, you're welcome, sir, this is what I should do. After hearing this, Michelle said with emotion, if all people with special abilities were like you, our world would have less disputes and more peace. Adam smiled and said, there will be such a day, sir, I firmly believe in one thing. By the way, I know that you have suffered serious losses, but please promise me to protect these mutants, after all, they are just being used by others, poor man. Michelle sighed, and said, I'll try my best, I can only give you the promise of, try to keep their lives alive. After hearing this, Adam said lightly, I think you will definitely be willing to protect them, sir. Because these people are mutants of the lowest level. After speaking, he left the scene, because he felt that the X-Men had arrived, then there is no need to worry about the safety of these mutants. After Adam left the scene, he returned to his home, called Athena out, and said, Athena, have you tracked down those two people? Athena shook her head and said, no, there was a mutant who helped them leave Ellis Island. His appearance and abilities are similar to the more troublesome mutant among the mutants, the Red Devil, but because his skin color is blue. After hearing this, Adam asked, can satellites be used to locate his location? Athena shook her head and said, I tried just now, but I couldn't locate him. Adam sighed after hearing this, and said, it seems that we can only start the investigation from that church. Help me call up the video data near the church 2 days ago, and let's see if we find anything. Athena asked suspiciously, Master, why are you planning to investigate these things this time? Didn't you say in the past that the investigation should be handed over to the police? Adam sighed and said, because I'm angry. I want to avenge those who died today. Start investigating, Athena. After hearing this, Athena said, okay, Master. After speaking, she waved her hand, and some video materials appeared on the screen in front of Adam. Adam and Athena quickly watched the video a few times and smiled at each other, saying, finally, we have a new discovery. Athena smiled and said, hey, Master, you are the best. There is still a person in the church. This person is the key to our investigation. Adam nodded and said, well, this priest must be the person we want to find. He hasn't come out since he entered the church meeting yesterday. Either he was silenced, or there must be another passage in the church. Athena said, it seems that Master, you need to go there yourself. As long as we know where the underground passage leads, we can find out where the priest is going. Adam stretched his waist and said, okay, I'll go and have a look right now. You continue to pay attention to the affairs of Ellis Island, and tell me in time if you have anything. Athena nodded and said, well, good Master, don't worry. Adam smiled, then left the house and took a taxi to a place near the church. At this time, the church has been blocked by the police station, and there are several police officers patrolling near the church. After Adam saw it, he put on his shirt, moved into the church at super speed, and looked at the ground of the church with supervision. Soon, Adam found a relatively new footprint, followed the footprint to the side of the statue of Jesus, and saw the dark passage behind the statue of Jesus. Adam smiled slightly and was about to go in, but he heard the sound of cars stopping and the footsteps of many people walking towards the church. He frowned, jumped onto the beams of the church, and then hid himself and waited for those people to arrive. The door of the church was violently opened, and a group of soldiers in black uniforms with weapons walked in. Adam saw the words shield and other words written on their uniforms, and said in his heart, it's really fast enough, it's worthy of the shield what? Single quote. Just then, a soldier shouted, safe. A middle-aged man in a black suit and black sunglasses walked in with a serious face, looked around and frowned, and said, sir, can you come out please? Hearing the man's words, all the soldiers hurriedly gathered to surround the man for protection. The man waved his hand to let the soldiers disperse, and said, I am Agent Phil Coulson, Mr. Sha Ying, please show up, we have no malicious intentions. Adam was slightly startled, then jumped down, and said, as expected of an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., can you tell me how you found me? Phil Coulson smiled and pointed to the sunglasses he had just picked off, and said, these are not for decoration, nor are they worn for the sake of being handsome, hee, I have long admired your name, Mr. Shying. Adam looked at the sunglasses after hearing this, and found that it was indeed a high-tech product. He smiled slightly and said, it seems that you found me based on my footprints. You are indeed one of the most trusted agents of the current Director General. He was indeed a little negligent. Although he was able to move at high speed, he would still leave traces. Adam kept this matter in mind, and secretly said, it seems that I will go back and make some changes to the boots, so that the enemy will not be able to discover my identity through some of my characteristics. Single quote. Phil Coulson said, hee, that's ridiculous, so, let's get down to business, what is Mr. Sha Ying doing here? Adam said, I'm investigating the incident of mutants attacking Ellis Island today. If you have contacted the army, you should know that those mutants have been controlled by humans in order to cause a war between humans and mutants. After hearing this, Phil Coulson said, well, yes, we have already contacted the military. If possible, how about letting us investigate this matter? After all, we are professionals. Adam thought for a moment, if he didn't agree with the other party, he would definitely say some big truths and annoy him to death. Why not pretend to agree and investigate secretly? Thinking this way, he nodded and said, okay, who told you to be professional? Please inform me of the result. By the way, there is a secret room over there to investigate. After speaking, he pointed to the statue of Jesus. Phil Coulson laughed and said, "Oh, thank you for your help, Mr. Sha Ying." Adam shook his head and said, "It's a small matter, but I see that there are many dangers inside. I will destroy all these traps in the front in a while. It is safer for you to follow behind, what do you think?" Phil Coulson nodded and said, "Well, thank you very much, but you said you saw it just now, have you already gone in? Did you find anything?" Adam didn't seem to know what the other party was talking about, pointed to his eyes, and said a little braggingly, "My eyes can see through any object, and everything I wrote to you just now was seen with my own eyes." Phil Coulson's expression changed, and then he returned to normal. He said in surprise, "Oh, it's too powerful, isn't it? Oh, no, you can't look at me." After speaking, he protected his vitals with great humor. Adam curled his lips and said, "Hey, don't worry, in my eyes you are just a skeleton now, there is nothing to see, in fact, I have been regretting this, and I can't peep openly." Phil Coulson breathed a sigh of relief, and said, "Oh, I was really scared to death." It turned out to be similar to X-ray perspective, but this ability is also very useful. Adam laughed and said, "Of course, no hidden secret door or secret room can escape my eyes." Phil Coulson smiled and stopped talking. After all, the other party has clearly told him that if I want to know, the secret base of your organization will not escape my eyes. Such an obvious threat, if Coulson does not, if he knows how to restrain himself, then he should go to the Shield Academy again. At this moment, the person who had just checked the interior of the church had returned, and said to Phil Coulson, "Report, sir, there is nothing inside except for spider webs." Phil Coulson said with a smile, "Okay, gentlemen, Mr. Sha Ying has found the place we are looking for. I think maybe we should start." The last blow was for Adam. Adam nodded and said, "Okay, let's go, you follow me, it's best not to act rashly until I say it's safe." Phil Coulson said, "Don't worry, Mr. Sha Ying, my soldiers are very obedient, and the situation you said will not happen." "Then let's go." Adam came to the statue of Jesus with a smile, looked at the statue and said, I'm sorry, Your Highness, Son of God." After speaking, he directly cut the statue and the door of the secret room connected to it with a heat ray, then violently pushed it away. After watching it, Phil Coulson said humorously, "Oh, a very practical ability." Adam shrugged and said, "Of course, I usually use it to bake bread at home, it's very fast, and I don't have to worry about electricity bills." Phil Coulson said with a smile, "I'm starting to envy you, Mr. Sha Ying." Adam smiled slightly, walked into the dark passage, and said, "Hee, you can't be jealous, Coulson, I have an innate ability." After finishing speaking, he continued to walk forward. Phil Coulson didn't speak, and followed Adam quietly, watching Adam dismantle some traps very quickly, not knowing what he was thinking. At this moment, Adam, who was walking in front, stopped suddenly, and asked them to stop. Phil Coulson asked, "What happened?" Adam turned his head and said, "Hey, guys, there is poisonous gas behind the front door. If you have a gas mask, you'd better wear it. If you don't have one, leave the passage now. That guy is very insidious. I must have guessed that someone will violently destroy this place. A lot of preparations have been made." Phil Coulson took the gas mask handed to him by the soldier beside him, and said, "Don't you need it?" Adam shook his head and said, "No, these poisons are useless to me." He has decided to use his strength to deter Shield, so he no longer keeps it. Sure enough, Phil Coulson heard that although his face didn't change, Adam's super hearing still clearly heard his instantly accelerated heartbeat and slightly messy breathing. The corners of Adam, who was walking in front, raised his mouth slightly, and his purpose of deterrent had been achieved. Afterwards, Adam, Phil Coulson and the others encountered 4 large traps. After breaking them one by one, Adam and the others found the exit, an exit leading to the Sanchico sewer. Adam frowned and said, "It seems that we have encountered a very cunning enemy." Phil Coulson was wearing a mask, so his voice was weird, and he said, "That's true. Now that we're here, leave the investigation to us." Adam nodded and said, "Okay, be more careful." He has already used his ability to remember some of the characteristics here, and asked Athena to analyze the most likely direction for the enemy to leave, so he is not afraid that he will not be able to find the priest. Phil Coulson said with a smile. Well, thank you, we will. In fact, our head wants to meet with you. If possible, can you give us your contact information? Adam said lightly. Wherever you need help, I will be there. So it's easy to find me. Phil Coulson shrugged and said, we've already tried it, but you didn't show up. After hearing this, Adam was a little puzzled, but after Athena's explanation, he realized that there had been several accidents before, all caused by S.H.I.E.L.D., because he knew that these were man-made accidents, so Athena never informed him at all. He chuckled and said, okay, I will leave a phone number, and you can use that number to contact me if you have anything to do. But you have to remember that I am not your subordinate, so it is not necessary, so don't call me, otherwise I may ignore you again. After hearing this, Phil Coulson hurriedly said, don't worry, Mr. Shying, we won't be so boring. I just wanted to chat with you before. Since we have roughly understood each other today, there will be no future conversations. Such a temptation. When Adam was investigating the church, he met Phil Coulson, an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. who also came to investigate the church. Adam promised Phil Coulson not to continue investigating the case, and then led them through the passage of the secret room to after the Sanchico underground waterway. I said goodbye to Phil Coulson and walked into the passage again. Adam asked, what did Athena discover? Athena passed some information to Adam and said, this secret passage is not newly built. According to my analysis, it belongs to a building more than 20 years ago. After hearing this, Adam said, so, we are likely to be deceived. Athena shook her head and said, I don't know about this, I need to analyze it, but I have a doubt about the presence of S.H.I.E.L.D. people here. Adam laughed and said, is it the spider web? Athena said, it turns out that you have noticed it, Master. Hee, a group of well-trained special forces will add useless complaints when reporting. This is simply impossible. Adam nodded and said, that's right. He said, nothing was found except spider webs. This sentence has already fully explained the problem. Who left the spider webs? Of course it was a spider. Then S.H.I.E.L.D.'s relevant spider, there is only one of them. Athena smiled and said, Black Widow. Adam continued, yes, it's her, so what is certain is that the Black Widow has been mixed into the organization that made the attack today, and they are here to find the clues left by the Black Widow, because outsiders are present, so they say it's a spider's web. As expected of an elite unit, they're quick-witted. Athena smiled and said, that's why the other party asked the Master not to continue the investigation. They are afraid that you will destroy their plan. Adam said, I just want to avenge those dead, that's all. Athena asked, then we continue to investigate. Adam nodded and said, of course. S.H.I.E.L.D. is not a charity organization, and will not conduct investigations for the death of a few people. They will definitely have their own purpose, maybe they want to seize the handle of that organization or individual and let them do it for them. S.H.I.E.L.D. works, but I can't, my purpose is very simple, just revenge. Athena said, well, I have collected the information on this secret passage, and I can go back. I will keep an eye on S.H.I.E.L.D. and notify you if there is any news. Adam smiled and said, thanks, Athena, it's great to have you. After hearing this, Athena said proudly, HMPH, it's good that you know. Then she disappeared. Adam smiled and left the church. On the other side, in the sewer, Phil Coulson picked up the phone after confirming that Adam had left. Sir, we've got what Natasha left behind. Well, what happened? Coulson said, we met Sha Ying in the church. I had a brief chat with him and found that this person is a bit difficult to deal with. Shying, why is he standing there? Doesn't he like to take care of the rest? Coulson said with a serious face. Most of the dead today are civilians and soldiers, sir, it's different from the past. He's angry. It means he is still very young. Coulson said, yes, if he didn't change his voice. Have you found anything? Coulson nodded and said, well, we should re-evaluate the opponent's strength, speed, strength. Adam used these abilities mainly in front of people before, so S.H.I.E.L.D. knows only this and X-ray perspective and the heat ray. The temperature of the heat ray should be very high, and no weakness has been found for the time being. The other side was silent for a while, and said, "Got it, you did a good job." Coulson continued, "There is also good news. Sha Ying gave me a number, so I can find him when I need help, but also remind me not to treat him as my subordinate and give orders at will. Coulson, you come back and write a report, and write out everything in detail. I'll let them analyze Sha Ying's strength." Coulson nodded and said, "Okay, oh, yes, I also recorded some videos, maybe it will help." Hee, as expected of Coulson. "You did a great job." Hearing this, Coulson suddenly heard something, saying, "By the way, Sha Ying knows my name, and he also mentioned some things that only we know. I think you know what it means." "I see, I'll take care of this. Then I wish you a happy day, sir." After speaking, Coulson hung up the phone, and then shouted to the guarding soldiers around, "Okay, close the team. Go back, there is nothing here." Sure enough, the people at S.H.I.E.L.D. knew something that Adam didn't. It's a pity that although Adam knew what S.H.I.E.L.D. was hiding, he couldn't force them, so he had to analyze the collected information with Athena. For several days, neither Adam nor Athena found any clues. Adam exhaled, and said, "I don't know what went wrong, but it just disappeared." Athena said, "Maybe it was the Blue Devil-type mutant who shot that day." After hearing this, Adam said, "Maybe, it seems that we can only target S.H.I.E.L.D. and this blue demon." Athena nodded and said, "I'll pay attention." Hey, someone came outside the villa, and it turned out to be someone from S.H.I.E.L.D. Adam asked suspiciously, "S.H.I.E.L.D. Who is it?" Athena said, "It's this person, whose name is Maria Hill, who is the current S.H.I.E.L.D. commander." After speaking, she sent a picture of a glamorous woman in a light blue lady's suit to Adam. Adam was even more puzzled when he saw it, and asked, "What is she here for?" He couldn't believe that his identity had been exposed. Athena shrugged and said, "How do I know? I'm an intelligent computer, not a universal computer." Idiot master. Adam almost blew up after hearing this, and said, "Don't go to weird websites anymore, I've started to vomit." Ding dong. Doorbell rang. Through the video, Adam asked, "Who are you looking for, this beauty?" Maria Hill said with a flat face, "Mr. Howard asked me to come here, please open the door." When Adam heard that Howard had introduced him, he shrugged and asked Athena to open the door, waiting for Maria Hill to arrive. He doesn't have much influence on the people of S.H.I.E.L.D. Even if it's Phil Coulson who looks very gentle and elegant, you must know that they are all a group of agents, and agents are best at acting. Maria Hill was not at all surprised by Adam's unreasonableness, because Adam Stark was such a person in the data. He was a humble, gentle, and very funny young man outside, but when he returned home, he was the kind of person who rejected others. An indifferent otaku thousands of miles away. Comment by Maria Hill. Maria Hill walked in, looked at Adam and said, "Hi, I'm from the National Secret Agency, and I need your help with something." Adam said indifferently, "What's the matter?" Since it was introduced by his father, he would definitely help, but not in vain. Maria Hill didn't care about Adam's indifference, and explained, "It's about computer network security. Our department was hacked. Mr. Howard recommended you to us." Adam smiled secretly, but said without changing his face, "Okay, since father asked you to come, then I agree, and I will help you." After Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., received a call from Phil Coulson, he discovered that his security system had been hacked without anyone knowing it. This made him very angry, and asked the researchers to quickly find out the loopholes, but after the investigation of the researchers, they did not find any loopholes. Knowing that something was wrong, he had to call Howard Stark for help. Howard Stark was taken aback after receiving the call, and said, "You mean you want me to help you deal with potential safety hazards?" Nick Fury nodded and said, "Yes, sir, I need your help." Howard knew what the other party meant after a little thought, and said, "Do you want me to tell Adam?" Nick Fury said, "Yes, I have heard of his name." After all, Howard is also the founder of S.H.I.E.L.D., so he couldn't refuse Nick Fury's request, so he said, "Okay, this will help me, but stay away from my family in the future, and don't use S.H.I.E.L.D. Invite him in the name of the Bureau. This is my bottom line." Howard knew that Adam would always have contact with S.H.I.E.L.D., but he didn't want to contact S.H.I.E.L.D. so early, because the current S.H.I.E.L.D. made him feel very strange. If it wasn't for some affection, he would definitely not go to Adam. Helped. After hearing this, Nick Fury said, "I understand, I will pay attention." Howard finally said, when you send someone, as long as you mention my name, he will not refuse you, but whether he will make a request is beyond my control. Nick Fury said, I will let the person I trust the most talk to him, nothing will happen, don't worry. Howard was relieved now, and said, okay, go find him yourself, I don't think I need to tell you his address. Howard pretended not to hear Nick Fury's sarcasm, and said lightly, well, thank you for your help, Mr. Howard. After finishing speaking, he cut off the contact. The above conversation is the reason why Maria Hill came to find Adam. Why did Nick Fury let Maria Hill come in person? Adam is a well-known playboy in the outside world. Sending a beautiful woman there will always make things easier, that's what Nick Fury thinks. Sure enough, when Maria Hill expressed her future intentions, Adam agreed without even thinking about it. Just when Maria Hill was a little happy, Adam spoke indifferently. I can help, but I won't help you for nothing. After hearing this, Maria Hill said, yes, we will pay $100 million, and you can also get our friendship. Adam shook his head and said, $100 million. Oh, no, at least $5 million. I'm not interested in your friendship. After hearing this, Maria Hill said, $5 million. Impossible, at most $10 million. Adam smiled and said, deal. Maria Hill took out a check from her side, wrote it on, and handed it to Adam. Adam was stunned for a moment, and said, so you guys have already prepared it, hee, your department is really rich. Maria Hill smiled very beautifully, and said, it's too late for you to regret it now. Adam flicked the check, and said, no, I don't regret it, I've earned it to see the smile of a nice beauty like you. Maria Hill blushed, and then returned to normal, said, Mr. Adam, I think we can start. We are going to Washington. Our headquarters is there. After hearing this, Adam was surprised and said, huh. Didn't you say it was a secret department? Why did you tell me the address? For some reason, he likes to tease such ice beauties. Maria Hill said indifferently, the exact location will be kept secret, Mr. Adam, I think it's time for us to set off. Adam shrugged and said, okay, I'll change clothes. Athena will take care of the guests. After hearing this, Athena said, okay, master. A trace of disgust flashed in Maria Hill's eyes after hearing this, thinking that Adam was hiding a woman here, but this disgust was soon replaced by surprise because she saw Athena. A holographic beauty, this is clearly a smart butler. Immediately, Maria Hill was relieved. This was what Adam showed to himself. This was the best way for Adam Stark to prove himself. Seeing that there was a deep trace of dissatisfaction hidden in Maria Hill's eyes at this time. Trust is gone too. Athena looked at Maria Hill's expression with a funny face, and said calmly, the master is going to change clothes, please wait a moment, what drink do you want? Juice or coffee? After hearing this, Maria Hill wanted to try the ability of this smart butler, so she said, give me a cappuccino, thank you. Athena smiled after hearing this, and said, okay, please wait a moment. After speaking, she walked to the coffee machine aside and started the machine, and soon a cup of coffee was brewed. Maria wondered how Athena would bring the coffee to her. After all, no matter how real the other party was, it was just a holographic image and could not touch the real thing, but Maria's doubts were quickly dispelled. After the coffee was brewed, the tray below suddenly moved, moving at a constant speed with Athena's movements. It turned out to be a cleverly designed robot. It seems that Athena pushed the pallet truck to Maria's side, which is very magical. Maria Hill picked up the coffee and asked, this is? Athena smiled and said, this is a miniature robot designed by Master Tony and his master. Maria Hill has completely trusted Adam's ability. It is a rare genius to be able to create an intelligent butler like Athena and such an ingenious robot. Maria decided to tell Nick Fury well after going back, so that he brought Adam Stark into S.H.I.E.L.D. Just as Maria Hill was thinking about this, Adam had already changed his clothes and walked out. A black and simple suit with Adam's handsome appearance is very attractive. Of course, Maria Hill will not admit that she is also attracted by this outstanding man. Adam looked at Maria, who was a little absent-minded, and let Maria wake up with a dry cough. Maria regained her composure, stood up quickly and said, Mr. Adam is ready, so we should set off. Adam smiled and said, just call me Adam, there is no need to add the word Mr. After hearing this, Maria Hill said, "Okay, Adam, you can call me Hill. Let's fly directly to our headquarters, no problem." Adam shrugged and said, "Of course it's no problem. Athena locks the doors and windows and takes good care of the house." After speaking, he walked out of the villa with Maria Hill. On the way to the airport, Maria asked, "Is that Athena a smart housekeeper?" Adam nodded and said, "Well, how's it going?" "It's amazing. Do you want to make one for you too?" "It's not expensive, as long as $1 billion is enough." No need. $1 billion. Maria Hill knew that Nick Fury would not spend so much money to make a life butler, so she said, "For the time being, we don't have this demand yet." Adam laughed and said, "Haha, I scare you. I'm just kidding. Athena is not perfect. In fact, I originally wanted to create an assistant to help me with scientific research, but in the end it became a life steward." Talking nonsense with your eyes open, that's what you're talking about. But Adam asked Athena to come out just to prove his strength, so he didn't need to let the other party know that Athena was a super smart computer. Sure enough, after hearing Adam's words, Maria Hill said, "This is already very powerful, but what I'm interested in is the robot." After Adam heard this, he said, "Oh, you are talking about Shaodai. He was made by Tony. Maybe you can wait, because I know Tony will announce this invention soon, and then you can talk to him about it." Maria smiled and said, "I will. Well, we are here." After speaking, the car stopped. Adam got out of the car and looked at the black transport plane in front of him, and said, "That's cool. We'll use this to go to your base." Maria Hill nodded and said, "Yes, this one is fast and secretive." After speaking, he boarded the plane first. Adam stepped onto the plane, looked at the interior decoration of the plane, and said, "Oh, that's awesome. Seeing this makes me think that buying a private jet is a good idea." Maria Hill said with a smile, "Really? This is our latest researched transport aircraft. Its speed can compare with ordinary fighter jets, but it is not comparable to ordinary aircraft." After hearing this, Adam said, "I'm interested in your department. By the way, if I'm going to buy this plane, will you shoot me in the head?" Maria Hill smiled and said, "No, at most it's just kicking your ass." In this way, Maria Hill and Adam talked and laughed all the way, and in less than half an hour they had arrived over Washington, and the windows of the plane were closed immediately. Maria Hill explained that this was to prevent the address of the headquarters from being exposed. Adam shrugged and said nothing. The plane landed very smoothly. Adam said, "I like this plane, it's really great, don't you really sell it?" After hearing this, Maria Hill said, "You can order one." Adam smiled and said, "Good idea. I'll book a plane as soon as I leave here. Can I invite you to visit?" Maria Hill shook her head and said, "That's impossible, Adam, I'm very busy with work. Well, I've arrived at the headquarters, let's go down." Adam got off the plane and found that he had come to the headquarters of S.H.I.E.L.D., a huge parking area, which contained a dozen of the latest American fighter jets and 2 transport planes, as well as countless soldiers and workers wearing camouflage uniforms or worker uniforms. "Do something busy." Adam to Maria Hill, "You are really big here, I really don't know what kind of institution you are." Maria Hill shook her head and said, "This is a secret, Adam, your father didn't let us tell you this, saying that it's still very early for you to get in touch with this." Adam suddenly realized that his father was probably protecting him, and said with a smile, "Well, if that's the case, then I won't ask any more questions, arrange a place for me to work, and start working." Maria Hill hadn't smiled since she came to the headquarters. With a cold face, she said lightly, "Okay, come with me, we've got it ready for you." After speaking, he took Adam into the took the elevator and stopped on the 18th floor. Adam followed Maria Hill to the office room provided by S.H.I.E.L.D., where there were several computers. Adam smiled and said, "I'm well prepared. All right, Hill, go and do your business. I will quickly plug all the loopholes for you, and then update the defense system once." Maria Hill nodded, and said, "Okay, if you need anything, just press that switch, just say it, see you later." Adam waved his hand and said, "Well, goodbye." After speaking, he sat on the chair and started typing on the keyboard. Fix the loopholes and improve the progress bar of the defense process. This is the scene at X Academy when Adam is fixing the loophole he left at S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. Mystique used her ability to sneak into X Academy, and then found the little naughty Mary, turned into an Iceman, and said some exaggerated words, making Mary feel that it was a mistake for her to stay in X Academy, so Mary left X in tears college. Logan, who had absorbed part of the mutant ability from Mary, recovered, and when he was about to find Mary to comfort her, he found that Mary had left X Academy long ago. This made him so angry that he almost got into a fight with Cyclops. "Don't worry, I'll find her for you, and I'll find her soon." Professor X stopped the two people who were about to fight, and took Logan to the room where the brainwave enhancement machine was located, and found Mary in less than 10 seconds. Professor X took off the brainwave enhancer a little tiredly, and said, "I found it. She's at the train station." After hearing this, Logan asked, "Where is the train station?" Professor X said, "It's not far from here, but you can't go there." Logan didn't listen to Professor X's words, and said, "Why? Did you let Mary leave alone?" Professor X explained, "Magneto is in that place, your skeleton is all metal, just restrained by him, you can't defeat him." Logan had long forgotten his own memory, so he didn't know Magneto at all, and said with a sneer, "You'll have to fight to find out." After speaking, he ignored Professor X's persuasion and left the office. Soon, Phoenix Girl and others walked into the office. They were called by Professor X. "Scott and Aurora, you go to the train station to support Logan, and then bring the little rascal." Cyclops and Storm nodded and left the office. Phoenix asked, "Professor, what about me?" After hearing this, Professor X said, "Prepare the car, I will go to the train station with you. They are not the opponents of Magneto, they need our help." Phoenix Girl nodded and said, "Okay, Professor." After speaking, she walked out. Sure enough, as Professor X expected, when they arrived at the train station, the X-Men had already been defeated by Magneto and his men, and the train station was surrounded by policemen, and Magneto was sneering and preparing to kill these policemen. "Professor," Phoenix Girl called out to Professor X when she saw this situation. Professor X smiled slightly and said, "Don't worry, nothing will happen." After speaking, he glanced at the saber-toothed tiger standing next to Magneto, not the steel teeth, which were replaced by me, and instantly controlled him. Magneto didn't know that his subordinates were under control. He looked contemptuously at the policeman who pointed his gun at him, and said with a sneer, "Do you really think that these toys of yours will protect you?" The gun in his hand was suspended in midair, and he turned around and pointed at them. At this moment, the saber-toothed tiger suddenly grabbed Magneto by the neck and said, "Let them go." Magneto was startled, not knowing why the saber-toothed tiger would attack him. Toad on the other side also turned around and said, "That's enough, Eric, let them go, you've already lost." Magneto suddenly realized, and shouted, "Charles, my old friend, since you are here, why don't you meet me?" Professor X didn't want to meet Magneto, so he controlled the saber-toothed tiger to tighten his hands, and said, "Leave, Eric." Toad on the other side was also under the control of Professor X, leading Mary to the back of the police. Magneto looked at it and said coldly, "You can't threaten me, Charles, I don't believe you will kill me." After speaking, he controlled a pistol and fired with a bang. Professor X was shocked when he saw it, and just about to ask Storm to block the bullet, he found that the bullet was quietly suspended an inch above the policeman's forehead, and the policeman was also restrained and unable to move. Magneto himself controlled the bullet in order to threaten Professor X. Magneto looked at it, and said, "Either let me go, or let these people die. Don't test my patience, Charles. You know me." After finishing speaking, he loaded all the guns suspended in the air, and was ready to fire. Gun. Professor X knew that Magneto was a man of his word, so he had no choice but to release the control on the saber-toothed tiger and Toad. Magneto laughed and said, "Charles, I knew you would be like this, you don't want to bleed, this is your fatal weakness." Quote. Professor X sat quietly in the car and didn't answer. And at this time, Mystique landed in an open space with a helicopter, and Magneto left the train station very chicly with Toad, saber-toothed tiger, and Mary. This time, Professor X lost in a mess. Phoenix Girl asked, "What should we do?" Professor X said, "Find Scott and Aurora, and then go back to school to discuss." Phoenix Girl found Scott and Aurora through her ability, and then told them her location through voice transmission, and asked them to bring Logan here. Hearing the voice transmission of Phoenix Girl, Cyclops and Storm find Logan, who was nailed to the train by Magneto, and then return to Professor X. Logan looked at Professor X and said, "You were wrong, the person Magneto is looking for is not me, but Mary. I need to save her." After hearing Logan's words, Professor X said, "We also just found out about Magneto's goal, but let's go back first, and we can talk about things later when we go back to school." Logan saw that this was indeed not a place to discuss matters, so he said, "Okay, I'll go back with you." X Academy, Professor X's office. Professor X looked at Logan and said apologetically, "Sorry, Logan, we didn't know in advance that Magneto's target was the little rascal." Logan shook his head and said, "Now is not the time, we have to save Mary." Professor X said, "I know, but we have to know Magneto's purpose before we can act." Logan shook his head and said, "I don't care about this. If you don't come, I'll look for it." After speaking, he walked out of the office. After Storm saw it, she said, "I'll persuade him." After speaking, she also ran out, but soon she ran over in a panic. "Professor, come and take a look, Senator Kelly." Professor X and others hurried over after hearing this, and found Congressman Kelly lying on the observation platform with a pale face and drenched body, and Logan was standing beside him, staring at Professor X intently. After checking Mr. Kelly's memory, Professor X said with a serious face, "Something is not good. Aurora, you stay here to take care of him. Let's go back and discuss it." After speaking, he led everyone back to the office. Logan frowned and asked, "What's going on?" Professor X said, "Magneto, he created a machine that can force humans to evolve into mutants, but this forced change will destroy human genes." The Phoenix Girl continued, "And Senator Kelly's body cells have been completely destroyed, he won't live long." Cyclops asked after listening, "Is this dangerous to mutants?" Professor X shook his head and said, "There is no danger, but it is a fatal thing for ordinary humans. We must stop Magneto." After hearing this, Logan clapped his hands suddenly, and said, "I thought about why Magneto caught the little rascal." Professor X thought about it for a while, and he also thought of the reason, and said with a solemn face, "Yes, I also thought of it. He wanted to use the ability of Little Naughty to let her start the machine instead of him, because Magneto was wrong when he started the machine last time. Die at one point." Logan became anxious when he heard it, and said, "We have to save her." Professor X nodded and said, "Okay, we will find them." After speaking, he entered the room where the brainwave enhancement machine was located again, and put on the brainwave enhancement machine. However, after Professor X put on the brainwave enhancement machine, he fell down trembling all over, because this machine was tampered with by Mystique when they left X Academy, just because they were afraid that Professor X would disrupt their actions. When the people waiting outside heard the sound of falling to the ground, they hurried in and found Professor X lying on the ground trembling all over. They hurriedly took Professor X to the medical room. After examination, they found that the professor was just unconscious, but not know when to wake up. Logan saw that Professor X was in a coma, and felt that his affairs should not implicate them, so he turned and walked out. After seeing it, Storm also walked out. She was afraid that Logan would search blindly alone, and they would lose a combat power. After all, the people on Magneto's side are very powerful. Although those people's abilities are not great, their combat experience is not comparable to these X-Men who have always rejected fighting. The Phoenix Girl looked at the unconscious Professor X, remembered his past education to her, gritted her teeth and decided to take the risk of using the brainwave enhancement machine to find out the whereabouts of Little Rascal and others, so the Phoenix Girl walked out quietly and let the laser Yan as alone with Professor X. By the time Cyclops felt something was wrong and walked out, Phoenix Girl had already used the brainwave enhancement machine, and enduring the pain she finally found the location of the little rascal and the purpose of Magneto. Cyclops hurried in, helped Phoenix Girl up, and said distressed-edly, "Chin, how are you? Are you okay? How can you risk using the brainwave enhancement machine?" The Phoenix Girl showed a slight smile and said, "Scott, I have already found the purpose of Magneto." After hearing this, Cyclops stroked Phoenix Girl's hair affectionately, and said, "Okay, let's go find them." After speaking, he helped Phoenix Girl to find Logan and Storm. When Cyclops helped Phoenix into the living room, Storm had already persuaded Wolverine to act together. Seeing the sweaty Phoenix, Storm asked the reason with concern. Phoenix Girl smiled slightly, and said, I've already found the position of Little Naughty. Logan opened his mouth and finally said thank you. Because when he first came, Phoenix Girl said that she couldn't use the brainwave enhancement machine, which was very dangerous for her. Unexpectedly, this time she risked her life to use the brainwave enhancement machine and successfully found the little rascal's position, which made him admire this quiet, very beautiful woman. Phoenix Girl smiled at Logan, and then said seriously, okay, we already know Magneto's goal, which is the multinational joint meeting held on Ellis Island tonight, and he is going to use that machine on Liberty Island. If Magneto succeeds, it will kill ordinary humans in New York. So we must stop them. After hearing this, Aurora said, it would be great if we could contact Xia Ying, we can have one more helper. Logan was taken aback when he heard this, he almost forgot about this friend, and said with a smile, I have Xia Ying's phone number here, so I'll call him right away. The Phoenix Girl was taken aback, and asked, how do you have his phone number? Do you know who he is? Logan smiled and said, I promised him to keep it secret. After speaking, he left to call Adam. When Logan was about to call Adam, Adam had just finished his work and pressed the button to call Maria Hill. Maria Hill walked in and asked, has it been completed? Adam smiled. I said soon. You can let the people in your base attack it and try its defense capabilities. After hearing this, Maria Hill said, no need, I trust your ability. Adam smiled and said, oh, then thank you Hill for your trust. In the future, if there is any problem with this guy named Aegis, please call me. Maria Hill nodded and said, okay, so do you need me to take you back to New York now? Adam pretended to be disappointed and said, why don't you invite me to dinner? Maria Hill said with some embarrassment, sorry, I still have work tonight. Well, how about it, you leave your phone number, I will make an appointment with you sometime. She would be very happy to have a meal with this handsome and talented man, but tonight happened to be the busiest time for S.H.I.E.L.D. In fact, Adam was just a habitual rhetoric just now. After he finished speaking, he regretted it, because he finally remembered that he still had a girlfriend. When he was secretly regretting, Maria Hill refused. Let him breathe a sigh of relief. Hearing Maria's words, he nodded quickly and said, oh, it's really a pity, this is my business card, you can call me when the time comes. Since the other party wants my phone number, I can't refuse it. No, I hope that the busy work of S.H.I.E.L.D. will ease Maria Hill's attitude towards herself a little bit. Maria Hill put away her business card and said, well, I'm going to New York tonight too, so I'll take you back. Adam nodded and said, okay. After speaking, he followed the other party to get on the transport plane again and prepared to go back. At this moment, Adam's watch vibrated slightly, and Athena's voice came from the earphone. Master, Mr. Wolverine Logan is calling, are you ready to answer? Adam smiled apologetically at Maria Hill, and said, I'm sorry, I'll answer the phone. After speaking, he walked aside and let Athena answer the phone. Hey, Adam, I need your help, Logan said immediately. Adam froze for a moment, and asked, yes, what kind of help do you need? Do you want me to check your past? It was only then that Logan remembered that he was a little anxious, and said, no, I don't know about it, please, it's like this, Little Naughty, it's the girl we saw together last time, she was taken away by Magneto, and her life is in danger. We need your help, we are now heading to Liberty Island. After hearing this, Adam said, I'm not in New York right now, but I'll be there soon, don't worry. Then he hung up. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.